how simple life really was. Instead of sitting around with family, there was individuals sitting around boxes with screens, and they forgot how to grow their own food. And hunting was replaced by practices which were cruel, and everything seemed to be divided by plastic made with petrochemical oil, which was extremely toxic. And these people also ran their cars on that oil, which polluted the air and the water and the soil. But the ones who benefited didn't care about the earth. They were only interested in how much the oil was worth. When they started running out, they started fighting for control to secure the world's supply. Petroleum was their goal, so they assembled their armies, and their wars destroyed life. They hid the truth from the people, kept it out of their sights. And millions of people were betrayed by these lies, convinced to kill each other and watch each other die. Entire cultures were destroyed before our very eyes. We just sat around and watched the fire falling from the sky. But all the time we knew that it could happen to us. We were living in fear and we were on the same bus. By invading other people we created more enemies, but they believed that they were doing it to make themselves free. This is the world that I grew up in, so you understand my brain when it begins to spin, searching for solutions, a better way to be. And I think much clearer when I begin to breathe. So I breathe in the air. Yeah, take a deep breath. It's everywhere. Heal my spirit, heal my body, heal my soul. I know who I am, consciousness spinning through sacred air. The healers, whatever your call is, actualize and realize we come here to balance these violent times. Warriors of peace, ambassadors of love, always staying center when push comes to shove. Third eye wide open and dancing to music, accepting the power, knowing how to use it. Coming together, we circle the globe, seeing the oneness, our chakras are glowing. Our vibrations where we want it to be, keep it high, you know how it feels to be free. All you gotta do to understand these ways is breathe real deep and enjoy each day. Work selflessly with others and we'll all survive together. Tomorrow is now and there's beautiful weather, so breathe. Breathe in the air. Yeah, take a deep breath. It's everywhere. Heal my spirit, heal my body, heal my soul. Oh, I know who I am, consciousness spinning through a deep breath. It's everywhere. Heal my spirit, heal my body, heal my soul. I know who I am, consciousness spinning through sacred air. Danger, never try be no major boy. Now try what the sort of them toy. Yo, get to youth with them now off the employ. Stay in school, but school is like Navy. Have man like a baby, nobody there to save me now. Now what you expect the young youth to do? Him pick up badness and giant Batman go. And a that's all. Man start bust gunshot. And a that's all. Man start out city lock. And a that's all. Pick up badness pan them head. And a that's all. Them blow down. See they know them can't believe it. Can't believe a reggae rocker we are reveal it. Like they never want to speak the truth. Oh, them a gonna stop at them a young rasta youth. See they know them can't believe it. Can't believe a reggae rocker we are reveal it. Like they never want to speak the truth. Oh, them a gonna stop at them a young rasta youth. Put a mix and a twix on all politics. But no P and J and all them critics. Show up on the track. It's after hits, no hits, no hits, no VX. See they know them can't believe it. Can't believe a place mama we are reveal it. Like them never want to speak the truth. Oh, them a gonna stop at them a young rasta youth. More consciousness, that's what we want. More consciousness, that's what we need. More consciousness, that's what we want. Stop at them a young rasta youth. See they know them can't believe it. Can't believe a reggae rocker we are reveal it. Like they never want to speak the truth. Oh, them a gonna stop at them a young rasta youth. I'm just a young teenager in a so much danger. Never try be no major boy. Now try one the shot of them toy. Yo, get a youth with them no want to employ. Stay in school, but school is like Navy. Have man like a baby, nobody there to save me now. Now what you expect the young youth to do? Him pick up badness and giant Batman go. And a that's all. Man start bust gunshot. And a that's all. Man start out city lock. And a that's all. Them pick up badness pan them head. And a that's all. Them blow up. Yo, say see they know them can't believe it. Can't believe a place mama we are reveal it. Like them never want to speak the truth. Oh, them a gonna stop at them a young rasta youth. More consciousness, that's what we want. More consciousness, more
More consciousness. That's what we need here in Lake County. More consciousness. Good morning. Welcome to Lake County Magazine. That's the amazing sounds of Blaze Mob. They're one of my favorites. They are the children of Garth Dennis, who was originally in the Wailing Souls from Jamaica. And then he also spent a few years with Black Uhuru. And so he's well-versed in reggae music, and looking forward to getting them up in this direction here one of these days. They don't get up here often enough for my taste.
And where are they from?
Jamaica. Well, the kids live in L.A. They've been L.A.-based like almost their whole life.
Sorry for them.
They're city kids.
Yeah. Okay.
So I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Welcome. We've got a power-packed day today.
We do?
I think so.
Okay.
Starting at 10 o'clock, we have Sara Ryan. Sorry, I'm still on non-daylight savings time. 10 o'clock, we have Sara Ryan, who is the Environmental Director for Big Valley Rancheria. And then we also have Supervisor Jim Steele at 11. So we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty with them, both of them, regarding the lake and water and the environment and all kinds of good stuff. Because both of them that's in their wheelhouse. So I'm pretty excited about the whole day, actually. And then we've got a lot of topics to go over that we need to discuss. I hope I'm not interrupting your emails.
I have people who want to know how to listen to us.
Well, they better just get on their computers and listen.
They are.
Good.
That's why I was talking to them.
The problems that we've been dealing with in the past with our site, there is still an issue with streaming because they upgraded us to we got a little too much headroom there. They upgraded.
You look like a shrimp.
Mr. Cameraman, I know. I look like I'm like a shorty. Mr. Cameraman, if we could get some adjustment on
Mr. Cameraman. Is that a song?
It shows up differently on the TV than it does on the website, so just go up a little more.
I mean down.
No, up with the camera. Sorry, down.
Down, thank you.
Camera. My dyslexia kicked in again. You
because you
don't need to come down more. Keep going. You're being way too sensitive. Give it a good push. Of course, now you've got his head. I'm looking at this. This is 30-second delay.
There you go.
There you go. That should be better.
Yeah, let them see my beautiful blonde hair.
Blonde?
Yeah. Can't you see his blonde?
Thank you, Mark. You're welcome. Mark Stangalini, our technical director, along with Joel Moore. They work together and help us make this a wonderful show.
I'm sure glad you can pronounce Mark's last name.
Yes, I've practiced it.
Stagalini?
Stangalini, right?
Stang?
Right, Mark?
Yeah.
Stank?
See?
Oh.
A good Italiano name.
So when are you going to bring some lasagna and pasta in?
Right?
Neither of those, but I'll bring in rotellini.
Oh, rotellini. That sounds awesome. Yeah, that's a hole. That's not a spot.
Anyway, shall we?
Bigger.
Shall we move forward?
Oh, and I want to say hi to Cheryl and Linda.
Hands on the air?
No.
Oh.
Your hands are freezing. I want to say hi to Cheryl and Linda. They're watching at Linda's house. Hey, guys.
Buenos dias.
We love you, and we're glad you're out there. And I know Cheryl is one of those that doesn't get to hear us very often because she's not blessed with good, fast internet where she lives.
I thought Phil had a good internet.
Yeah, but I guess she's over there at the wrong times.
Well, no comment.
Yeah, see the way we're cutting everything off
that's
there?
because if I go full
Because your box is not.
No, now I can. Fine, you see.
Okay, so do you get controls when you do that?
No, I got to figure that out. I got to add code into the...
So we're still working on the website too, folks. So we do ask for your kind understanding. But things will be improving soon. We are on the way up, not on the way down. And we got lots of surprises in the box in store for everybody.
Yes, we do.
Yes, so... Okay.
So stay tuned again.
So update on the referendum for the city of Clear Lake. Let's get that over with fast and easy. 1,260 signatures were turned into the city of Clear Lake. 51 were discounted, so a total of 1,209 were delivered to the County of Lake Elections Supervisor's Office at the county courthouse. And according to Supervisor Diane Fridley, they are going to be counted sometime, she said, the middle to end of this week they'll start. They're supposed to contact us in advance when that happens so that the proponents of the referendum can go down and be observers for the count. We also had observers in the city when they were doing their count as well. So the process is being it's being watched. It's being followed through by people who are citizens and residents of Clear Lake and interested to see how this process is going to pan out. So basically, the city needs 638 signatures in order to overturn the zero tolerance ordinance that's in place currently in the city of Clear Lake. And once that happens, if they get the signatures, that will completely stop the count. So as soon as they reach 638 verified qualified signatures, that will then mean that the ordinance will be put on hold until it can go to an election. Now, the city has indicated that they don't mind spending $20,000 on a special election. I'm glad they have so much money in their coffers that they can afford to blow it on something like this rather than trying to find a compromise. But, you know, that's how they want to do things, so there's not much people can do except wait for them to decide when that special election would be held. They have 88 days from the time the count is finished and officially counted to when they can do an election. So that puts us somewhere in July.
July, right. Yeah.
Yes.
Beginning to middle of July.
Yes.
Plus all the cost for litigation on the lawsuit that was filed.
Well, that's the next thing, but I wanted to finish with this first.
That's fine.
You're jumping ahead of me.
Always.
So the other option is if they don't want to pay $20,000 for a special election, they can wait until November 2016 and just add it on the regular ballot. Now, traditionally, special elections have brought out less voters, and usually voters that come out for that are the ones who would probably vote against or vote for zero tolerance. So there also was a large amount of voters that were registered during the signature process. Diane didn't have an actual count, but what she was able to tell me, and I know I personally signed out 50, and I only have like 10 left, so that's 40 people right there. But she was estimating, you know, we would have, you know, quite a few new voters. She said they've been coming in by mail every single day. So thank you to all of you who did register to vote, who are willing to stand up for your rights as citizens and your vote and make your vote be heard. And if we have to wait till 2016, that will keep everything on hold until then. It would also give the city an opportunity to sit down and see if the previous ordinance could be tweaked enough, because I believe that it actually falls back to the previous ordinance if this one's put on hold.
That is correct.
So that allows 6 plants, but they say there's no enforcement aspect to it, so there's not much they can really do to enforce it. So really what they should be doing is sitting down with all of the stakeholders and saying, well, how can we do this in a way that's going to handle the big grows? Because that's their big excuse. They say that if we have 6 plants, we're going to have 100 plants, and that zero tolerance means if you have a plant, you're going to get it taken out anyway, so it's going to be easier to enforce. Well, that's a big fantasy, because in reality, what it is, it's going to make it more difficult to enforce because people are not going to listen to this. This is not a law that actually charges you with a criminal crime.
No, but the fines
It's a zoning issue, and if you are the ones that are targeted, then you're given 5 days to remove your plants, and then if you don't remove your plants, you get charged $1,000 a plant and $100 per day per plant after that. Now, that is outrageous. That is unreasonable. That is total baloney as far as we're concerned. But in addition, what it does is it denies patients the right to grow their medicine. And we've talked about this before, that the ordinance has also got a definition of cultivation that also includes possession and processing, and would basically make all the dispensaries illegal for anything that they have on their premises as well. But again, illegal in a zoning aspect, not in
criminal
a point
charges.
of view of criminal charges. So very unlikely that a 6-plant person is going to go to jail under this ordinance. And I believe if there is any charges, they're deemed misdemeanors, and it's not really...
Unless they find other...
find other crimes being committed on the property.
Right.
They also have to have a warrant to enter your property. So you need to make sure that you're aware that there is a specific process that they have to go through. And all of the documentation is going to be delivered to the landlord, not the tenant. So the landlords need to figure out if they're going to be okay with people putting their plants in and getting their medicine while this thing is being discussed until it's been
Right,
decided.
and to clarify, this is not a criminal search warrant. It is strictly a warrant to allow them to come and look at your plants if they do exist.
Exactly.
And they have to get that from a judge. They can't just do it themselves.
Exactly.
So,
it's an interesting situation, and it's going to be put in the hands of the people if we get the count that we are looking for, and we're hoping that everything works out to where the people clearly cannot be dictated to by 3 people who happen to have an issue with cannabis. Okay, yes, there's a problem with cannabis in Clear Lake. There was just a double homicide over somebody owing somebody money over weed, supposedly. But that is not a patient issue. That is a commercial, distributed, people making money off of pot, which they're not supposed to be doing, except for your cost of your product and your time. You're allowed to get your expenses back in, and you're allowed to make your time back, but it has to be within a reasonable amount of money. What is happening is we've created this black market because we've made everybody go underground, and now we get murders and we get all this other stuff. That's not going to stop with this ordinance, folks. Everybody thinks, oh, it's going to go zero tolerance, so no one's going to grow. The same people that are growing 100 plants now are going to be growing 100 plants after the ordinance is active. And that's all there is to it. There's no change in that type of grower. The only people who are not going to be growing are the patients who are afraid of the fines and they don't want to lose their homes, so they're not going to bother to put their 6 plants in to get their medicine. This is going to create a black market. This is going to also raise prices.
well, that's the objective.
Exactly, which only feeds the illegal growers in Clear Lake. So we know what the agenda is. We know who's behind the agenda. And we are going to continue to bring the truth out about what is really happening in Clear Lake until this situation is resolved.
Well, speaking of truth, do you want to tell them what we said at the last council meeting?
Well, I'd rather finish talking
thought
about
you
what's
were.
going on right now. You
That's
wanted
fine.
to talk about the lawsuit.
Go ahead.
You keep jumping ahead of me.
Well, you're slow.
And actually, I don't want to talk about what happened in the city council meeting because if I do, I'm going to get upset.
No.
And I'm really upset with these people. I think that they think that they're pulling a fast one over everybody. We know who they are. We know what they're up to. And I'm just sick and tired of being manipulated by people with their own personal agendas. So, it actually, I called them out for it at the meeting. That's pretty much all that needs to be said about that. But the lawsuit is also underway as well. The city was served with their papers on that by Joe Elford, who is a specialist in cannabis law. And this lawsuit could actually challenge the Live Oak decision that gives the city the basis to create a complete ban on cannabis. Because the Live Oak decision was held in a different district, and our district has a little bit more friendlier judges, so if it goes to a higher court outside of Lake County, there's an opportunity there for the Live Oak decision to be overruled, and that they could come up with a now more friendly result for the people of the state of California. This could have statewide implications. So the lawsuit can continue while the referendum is going on the ballot. Police
Sirens going.
sirens going by. So we're very excited about that. The people who are involved in the lawsuit are Jerry and Tony Spittler and Robin Farnham. And Jerry has what's the name of it? Fibromyalgia. And, of course, a lot of people know that Tony had stage 4 cancer, which he managed to put into remission in his belief through the use of cannabis and green smoothies and healthier diets, etc. And he's now in remission, and he wants to stay that way. Also, Robin had a brain aneurysm, and she has severe headaches that cannabis manages the pain well. So these people need their medicine, and they need to have access to their medicine, and the city of Clear Lake is denying them that access, which, according to the state of California, is not legal. So I'm not quite sure what the heck they think they're doing and how they think they can get by with this. It's a little confusing what their mandate is and how they feel that they can pull this off. I just don't see it myself.
Well, that's because their own agenda and their own ego is basically changing the direction they really need to go to, is overcoming what the citizens want.
Yeah, it's just scary stuff.
And I think without going into specifics, there's some potential benefit to council members in regard to making this totally illegal and banned in the county, city, excuse me.
Right.
So
that's pretty much an update on that. Now, we went to the city council meeting. We went in front of the council. I railed them basically for being inconsiderate, ignorant, and idiotic in their decision, and their willingness not to compromise. That's what's really got me most upset.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time with the city manager showing her how the city of Clear Lake could benefit financially from cannabis should they choose to look at it as an actual medicine and develop a medical industry here. We're very lucky that we live in a place where cannabis grows in just huge, beautiful plants that are so high quality. We don't have that kind of quality. You can't get that in Colorado. You can't get that in Washington. We have the perfect growing conditions for cannabis here. We should be taking advantage of that. We've been saying this to the county forever, and we're saying it to the city. The city manager asked for white papers to demonstrate that there is a medical benefit and that there is actually scientific proof that cannabis does cure cancer and other things. I sent her over 25 links, and one link was just for 20 links just to cancer research that she said she was going to copy and hand to the council, but she did not do that. Maybe she felt that would have been a waste of paper considering their mentality, but I don't know. So I just think that it's really a shame that they have their heads in the sand and or up their butts, whichever way you want to look at it, and just not willing to look at an opportunity that's staring them in the face. Because 2016, people are going to be doing cannabis businesses hand over fist, and we're going to be left behind as usual. Which actually brings me to our next subject. Which
You're on a roll today.
It's not going to stop either. I guarantee it. That's why I want to keep going, because we only have a little bit of time on our own. So we want to talk about health rankings. So Lake County, we're not the bottom of the state, but we're 56th out of 57 counties in the category of health
that
income.
were accounted for. One county abstained from the survey.
Oh, so they didn't even get registered.
Right, so 58 counties, but
we're the last in the counties that were actually measured, okay? No,
there's 58
you're wrong.
counties.
There's 58 counties. One was not ranked.
I just said that.
But we're 56th out of the 57.
That is correct.
So we're second to last in the counties that were ranked on health. And these rankings are tallied annually by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation and the University of Wisconsin Population Health Institute. And they announced the new rankings this week. And, of course, we made last year, we were at the very bottom. So, we've come up.
That's right.
One step.
All one step.
And we have an article about this on Lake County Magazine. That's lakecomagazine.com, where you can read all about the details. And there's some areas that we do rank better than average. Low birth weight, food environment index, sexually transmitted infections, air pollution, drinking water violations, severe housing problems, and long commute driving. So we actually come in 13th in those categories. But that's not enough to raise us out of the bottom, unfortunately. So I encourage you to go there and read the article. It goes into detail on health factors, what kind of responses are being managed. Betsy Kahn is working on some things, and we'll talk a little bit about this with Sara when she comes. And there's a lot of things that they could do that they're not doing. And a great example is the way to Wellville, which everybody says is such a wonderful thing. Well, guess what? You only get into the Way to Wellville program if you're in the bottom 5 counties in the United States, okay? So it's not something we want to actually brag about, but it is helping because it's bringing community members from all walks of life together to help raise our health and our mentality. So there are hub and hero projects and a school-based clinic in Lower Lake, and there's a lot of things that are being developed right now. Also, Climb to the Peak of Health concept it has been put in place as well. The Move More 2014 campaign last year promoted physical activity. And I have to give kudos to Carol Cole-Lewis and the people that work with her on these projects and Denise Rushing and everybody that's out there really making this happen. I think that's really exciting.
I didn't realize Dr. Tate was involved in this too.
Yes, because she is our county health person. So there's that. Then I'm just going to read the headlines because actually, folks, we're kind of prepping ourselves for the 2015 Lake County Magazine TV News that we will be launching on April 14th from this very studio, but from Studio B behind us. And so it's going to be a live broadcast every day at noon between Monday through Friday, rebroadcast at 6:30 in the evening. And what that means for us is that it will allow us to expand our audience base. We're not going to let the details out just yet, but there's some things in the works that will enable access of our channel to be more accessible to people here locally and nationally and worldwide. So we're very excited about that, and we'll share more as we get further out. There's been some major crimes happening. A man was arrested after a standoff in Clear Lake, 37-year-old Otis Woodford. He had 6 felonies and 1 misdemeanor that he was charged with after police received a call that there was people that were being held at gunpoint in a home in Clear Lake. And when the officers arrived, they established a perimeter. And the man walked out, but it seemed like he didn't want to show his hands, and he walked back in, and he came back again a minute later, and he put his hands up, and the officers found a loaded gun, 45, on the couch in the living room. Everybody else came out safely, and kudos to the City of Clear Lake Police for stopping what could have been a very tragic situation. They handled this very well, and we're very happy to see that it ended the way it did. So we're very happy with the outcome on that one. The outcome on the next one, though, was not as good, and we're hoping that this guy does get caught. This is a regular offender. This gentleman, his name is Dylan Thomas Bacon, and I'm sorry I didn't download the photo, but there is a photo on LakeCoMagazine.com. The headline is Narcotics Offender Wanted for Meth Possession and Sales. And this was a high-speed chase that went down in the Clear Lake Park area up on Arrowhead and Acacia Street and Arrowhead Road. He was driving a black Dodge Charger, and he stopped the car and got out and ran. And when they got in the car, they found 26 grams of meth and 9 pounds of pot. And in addition to the drugs found inside the vehicle, they found a scale, packaging materials, etc. So this guy's on the loose, and he is a multiple narcotics offender. As a matter of fact, Medford, Oregon had this guy up on Medford's Most Wanted in 2012. So it looks like he left Oregon and came down here. He has warrants out in Woodland and Sacramento area. And this is a really, really, really bad guy. He's had multiple meth charges, and, he looks like a real sweet, innocent person. But his name is Dylan Thomas Bacon. He's 37 years old, and you guys need to keep an eye out for him. He has a bald head and a goatee and a real snarky look on his face. It's worth going to the magazine to check his photo out because I believe he's a regular in Clear Lake, and because this is the second time that we've actually run his picture in Lake County Magazine. The last time was, I believe, in 2012. Now, here's another tragic story, also emanating from Clear Lake, unfortunately. On Thursday, at approximately 8:21 in the evening, Clear Lake police were dispatched to the 35th Avenue block on a report of several shots fired. When they arrived on the scene, they found 2 individuals in the front yard who had suffered gunshot wounds. The victims of the homicide were identified as Stephen Jepson and Juan Perez Rodriguez, both of Clear Lake. Jepson was actually dead on the scene, and Perez Rodriguez was pronounced deceased while en route to St. Helena Hospital. And by all accounts, these were good guys. It looks like they got mixed up with something else that was a little deeper than they expected. The Clear Lake Police Department put out a press release the next day saying that they had arrested Francisco Leon Sarmiento. He's 26 years old, and they had actually, I guess, stopped him a couple of blocks away from the house. He was being held on $1 million bond with a court date scheduled for this past Monday, but they found insufficient evidence to hold him on homicide charges. But he was held on possession of marijuana for sale based on 2 pounds of pot that was found in the vehicle, and his bond was reduced to $100,000. So we don't know if he's still in the jail right now or if he's back out, but you could just look in this guy and see he's not a nice person. Again, there's a picture of him up on LakeHillMagazine.com. They did search his home, and they found marijuana grows throughout the residence, and a loaded firearm was located, but the firearm had no connection to the homicide. So they are investigating and continuing the investigation. But if this guy comes up with 10K, he could be back on his way back to Mexico, and we'll never see him again. He'll be left to kill someone else. It's just very tragic and very sad because, again, this speaks very highly to the whole zero tolerance aspect. But what these people don't understand is that the zero tolerance doesn't stop people like this. They're constantly always going to be buying and selling weed and killing people, and as long as law enforcement does not act on these big, large grows, these things are going to continue to happen. That's the bottom line there. And zero tolerance rules won't change that because, again, it's still a civil matter. Okay, next story we have is one of my favorites. When media attacks, overreach, deception, lies, and consequences.
Part 2.
Part 2. Okay, as you may recall from last week, we did part 1, which was the story about Bruce Forsyth and John Jensen from Lake County News, who has accused Forsyth of hacking into his website and putting a block on people being able to make comments. Jensen claims that this has cost him $100,000, and we personally doubt that very much. But I mean, if you can provide some kind of proof that this really impacted him like that, that's fine. But anyway, they came to his house and they took his machines, his computers, his laptops, and whatever else was there, and found nothing on them. And actually, I think they've been returned like last week or something like that. So, but the whole affidavit that was submitted is just full of all kinds of holes and no real direct evidence. And there was a search warrant that was signed by Sheriff Martin's father, Judge Richard Martin, I believe. And, it's well known that Bruce runs the Sheriff Mitchell Watch blog, which started back in 2010 and has basically become a government watch for Lake County. And there's a lot of people that go on there and they bash people, and they bash Jensen, and they bash Sheriff Martin, and they bash all the supervisors, and it's a big bashing site. We get bashed there all the time ourselves, and other people have been bashed. So it's just an anonymous blog where people can go and say whatever they please about whoever they want. But they do sometimes get some good stories, and we get to see some things that other media don't expose, and they've been very cooperative with us as well. And so so far, this is part 2. So we're not quite sure how this is going to end, but we'll be doing the story. Next week, again, another part's going to come out, and I advise you to go there. It's a long story, but it's a fascinating story. And they actually tracked some of the IPs back to the Lake County court courthouse building or
Right.
the county building offices. And there also was a little bit about Brian Rushing, Supervisor Rushing's son, who actually built the blog and had a lot of computer experience. And so there's been some speculation as to whether maybe he was one of the people involved in this, because it goes back to 2009, 2010, right when the blog was starting up. And there has always been this rivalry between Lake County News, because they call it Lake Controlled News because of the bias that Lake County News has shown even up to today in all kinds of stories that they run. So they've always been, had this antagonistic relationship. So we don't know who did it. They can't find out who did it. But it definitely wasn't Bruce.
Right. Well, I think what's interesting, besides the search warrant and the seizure of all the computers, is that how Mr. Jensen arrived at $100,000 for the damages, because
and it's not even damages; it's actual costs.
right.
It cost
So according to
Right.
what I've seen and read or heard, there's about 30 days over the last X number of years where there was downtime on Lakeco News, and 30 days he's asking for $100,000 in cost or lack of revenues during that period. I doubt his advertisers pay $100,000 a month.
Well, I'm not going to speculate because I have no idea, but it sounds very unrealistic that
Yeah.
that's accurate.
Yeah, wish we were doing that.
And I would like to see those numbers on paper if he could prove it. So this all is being handled by the Sacramento Department of the California Highway Patrol, the Cyber Crimes Investigative Unit. And they are, they broke into this guy's house. They came with 10 guys dressed in their riot gear, and they came in and busted his door down when no one was home, and they took his computers, all based on somebody's accusation without any
No
factual
evidence.
basis whatsoever. And this is what really outrages me the most, is that a judge could sign a search warrant, again, without any evidence of any wrongdoing, and that it could be referred up to a state-level agency, not even handled by the local agencies, at least the initial investigations. I like the way everybody's kind of kept their hands out of it. Oh, well, it's not us, it's CHP. We're not doing anything, we're not harassing anybody.
Well, part of the thing that the affidavit that Judge Martin signed, or the warrant, is that it was based on some very technical language, which most judges and most people don't even understand, no less want to enforce that. So
Exactly.
I don't know how much Judge Martin may have known about the subject, what he may have done his own research, but on the surface, I don't think any judge would have understood exactly what the warrant asked for. So technology at its best again, folks.
Yes.
All right. What about the? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, what do you want to talk
I was
about?
about- yeah.
What?
Up the bicycle accident.
Oh, yes.
should do
Well,
that.
we'll get into that. I was going to go into
You're still going to the
news.
stories? That's fine.
But go ahead and go into that, because that kind of goes with the whole tragedy concepts that we're dealing with right now.
Okay. Unfortunately, yesterday or the day before, we had a fatal bicycle accident. I guess the young man just fell off his bike, hit his head, and unfortunately passed on.
Yeah, we don't know if he was wearing a helmet or not.
Yeah, a 12-year-old young man.
So sad.
And,
our condolences to the family, and they're actually trying to raise some money
Right, for the funeral.
for the funeral. If you can give them the information on where,
Actually, what I have here is just to contact Aaron Lang, who is the father of the young child.
so he can be contacted through Facebook.
Right.
So please, if you guys have a couple bucks to spare to help out this family so they can bury their son, it's just a sad, tragic accident, and we're so sorry that this happened. It's just a shame to have a young life pass in such a way.
Yeah.
So we are going to be hopefully interviewing someone from the family to find out more about exactly what happened. But until then, if you can help, Aaron Lang is the person who's the contact. If you can give them some money to help them bury their son. Okay, on a lighter note, the Middletown Arts Center had their grand opening. And they had almost 250 people there, which was great turnout, with 8 artists, 5 founding artists, and 3 artists from Cobb Mountain area. And they had photography, sculptures, mosaics, pottery, and paintings. And Patrick Fitzgerald played the piano, and they had wine and little munchies and everything else. So Lisa Kaplan, who also runs the Eco Arts Lake County Sculpture Walk in Middletown, is one of the founding artists, and she has been very, very working diligently to make this happen for several months now. We're very, very happy for them. We're so happy to see another great place for art to show up in Lake County. We have wonderful artists, musicians, and people with all kinds of talents here, and having a place where people can show off their work is really valuable. And of course, Clear Lake has their little place there over in the plaza behind what used to be, what was the name of that restaurant that's been empty now?
Bobby's?
Yeah, that used to be Bobby's right behind there. So, all right. So then, let's see. That pretty much does it for our local news, and we're doing pretty good. We even got time left.
Can't believe you're talking so much. Usually in the morning, I have to do it.
I'm feeling pretty good
That's
this morning.
That's good.
Gibson Museum is going to be celebrating their first anniversary. County Wine, I think it's Lake County Wine Studio. Yeah, I think she misspelled that. Lake County Wine Studio in Upper Lake will be featuring the art of Anna Sabalone. And Grace Hudson Museum has a sustainability art exhibit. Democratic Central Committee meeting on April 2nd. Let's see. Okay, there was an attempted kidnapping in Middletown. 12-year-old girl, a couple of guys tried to pull them into her vehicle. She was smart and lucky, and she did get away. Again, on LakeCoMagazine.com, you can see a picture of the person that's of interest in this. They tried to give her a ride. She said she didn't need a ride. The guy sat down on the stairs next to her. Then he grabbed her wrist, pulled her to her feet, and she kicked the man in his shin.
Ouch.
For her. Caused him to let go of the wrist, and then he got into his pickup and left the area. So he's an adult white male, short with a stocky build, and he was also described as bald with no facial hair. And he was last seen wearing a black jacket and black cowboy-type boots. The vehicle described as being a black late model Toyota pickup. So we really want to see this guy get done. There's a sketch of the description of the guy, again, in the article on LakeCo Magazine, so you can check that out.
I got some news for you.
Oh, you do,
Yes, with all your ranting and raving over the last few years.
Yes.
Monsanto's profits fell 15% on weak sales.
That's wonderful.
See? So people are getting the message out there.
They are waking up. Yep. Thank you, folks. Thank you, folks.
And those of you who are Radio Shack fans, they're cleared bankruptcy court, so it looks like they're going to stay in business.
Oh, good. And you know what? The one here was not on the list. I read the closure list.
Oh, that's good.
And Clear Lake was not on the closure.
Oh, they do a good job down there.
Also, another good story is that there is assistance to homes with dry wells. Anybody out there? I know the Red Hills area has some problems with wells drying up. The California Office of Emergency Services had a visit by Gerald Quinn, the disaster badger, and he came here to Lake County, and he said that the state governor's office can assist with water deliveries to homes that have dry private wells, and that's through the Office of Emergency Services. So if you do need water, you can contact them. You have to have your application in before April 20th, and you want to send that to Stacy Mason Vegna, V-E-G-N-A, Recovery Infrastructure Branch Chief, at the California Governor's Office of Emergency Service, Public Assistance Division, 3650 Shriver, that's spelled S-C-H-R-I-E-V-E-R Avenue in Mather, California, 95655. And you can call 916-351-1831 for more information on that. That's really good news, because I know especially in Red Hills. Now, that's something else we should talk about in that region is that new vineyard that went in, and they found out the water is not good, and I think the whole first crop of their vines was completely destroyed by this water, and they're now having to replant everything. So I don't know what kind of water they're actually going to use once they get everything replanted, but we'll find out. You know, we'll see how it goes. I personally think that it's a travesty they were allowed to clear that much land to begin with. And it's obvious that it's affected the wildlife
Right.
because we've seen more mountain lions coming through our area and other things happening. So.
Yeah, you know, when your whole county's based on one industry, they'll do whatever they need to promote it.
Monocropping is never good. It doesn't matter
No.
where or it doesn't matter what crop. When you're monocropping, you're destroying the land, and that's all there is to that. So I will never support
Kind
a
of goes back to the
monocrop
old Dust Bowl back in the
philosophy.
1920s, 30s.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
So I think that's pretty much an update on what's going on and where we're at and everything else that's going on.
really.
Unless you have something more.
Always
I'm
have
sure you
I always have
something.
tidbits of information.
Exactly.
You know, you
Exactly.
concentrate on local stuff, and FICO has created a new metrics for risky customers. Those who've had problems in the past with credit, be it foreclosures or repossession of auto loans, stuff like that. They've come up with new metrics for those people who have had problems in the past, and what they're doing is selecting those individuals based on their credit scores, and they're applying a new metrics to it. And with that, it's going to be more favorable for higher scores. And what they're saying is, if with the new metrics, if your score is 620 or higher, you're going to be eligible for car loans, credit cards, possibly home mortgages, so you can put your money into the economy. I think that's what's really based on, is getting people to borrow more money, which creates investments in the car industry, things of that nature. So it'd be interesting when they do that. They don't have a new name for this FICO score yet. And it will be coming out over probably the next 3 to 4 weeks, so stay tuned for those who want to buy new cars and right now can't qualify. This should help you. You're looking for music?
I'm getting ready to take a break, aren't we?
Yeah. What type of good music are we going to play?
Well, I have some Mendo Dope and I have some Clandaikin.
You know how much time I've heard that in the car? Meadow Dope.
Did I ask you if you cared?
Yeah, I care.
I don't.
Yeah. In the meantime, folks, while she's looking for some good music to play, GoDaddy went public. GoDaddy's the one that does the websites and had those commercials during the Super Bowl in the past. They're actually opened up at roughly $24 a share, and right now it's up at over $31. So those who got in on the initial offering is already making a good, nice profit on that. So I didn't realize they were going public. So you got your music going?
Yeah, just for you, I'm not going to play the Mendo Dope.
Oh, thank you. Why? You know how many times
But
I've...
you know how many people listen that haven't heard it? You're
Well,
very
fine, then.
selfish.
Yes, I am sometimes.
Yes, you
I
are.
haven't heard classic rock on this show
Well,
in
you're not
weeks.
going to hear classic rock now. I'm going to play some Clandaikin,
Okay.
so you lose again.
Well, Klondike is not too bad.
All right.
But
So here's some Clandaikin, folks. We'll be back. in
We'll
a
be
few.
back.
You're on Lake County Magazine with Terry Larson.
And Pete the Tax Guy.
Thank you.
Last time I checked.
We got to pay the fiddler, folks.
All upon a starry night, I came upon a fire burning bright. Music filled the air, felt so right that the people there should dance into the night. Everybody wants to dance. Everybody wants to dance. Everybody wants to dance. But who's going to take a fiddler? Whoa, whoa, whoa. And so they danced the night away. But what they knew they wouldn't say. They're afraid it might spoil the play. But you always got to face the light of day. Everybody wants to dance. Everybody wants to dance, yes. Everybody wants to dance. But who's going to take a fiddler? Whoa, whoa, whoa. La 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 la. Oh yeah. What does the fire cling to? When it shoots its flames into the night, and when it shows its brilliance, people's bad luck. Everybody wants to dance. Everybody wants to dance. Everybody wants to dance. But who's going to pay the bill? La 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 la. Oh oh oh.
Who's going to pay the bill?
They wanna dance in South Africa. Got to dance in Nicaragua. They wanna dance in Ethiopia. They wanna dance in the frozen tundras of Siberia. They got to dance in Afghanistan. Wanna dance in Hopi Land. They wanna dance in Poland. But who's going to pay the fiddler? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Pay the fiddler, 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 la 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 la. Oh 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 oh. When the night had turned to day and the fire had burned all that fuel away, there was no one left to pay. So the fiddler just walked away. Yeah. Everybody wants to dance. Everybody wants to dance. Now our children want to dance. But who's going to pay the fiddler? Oh, oh, oh. I'm a gonna, you're gonna, we gotta, we better pay the fiddler, la 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 la. Oh yeah.
That's my question. Who's going to pay the fiddler? Huh? Huh? Huh?
Oh, Clear Lake sure can't.
Hey,
Oops.
they got a clean audit report, okay? At least they're keeping the books right. Well, let's put it this way. At least they're not making any mistakes that people can see.
Well, my question is, who was the auditing firm?
Well, it's in the article, but I don't go to that place to read things like that.
Yeah,
so.
well, that's all right. So
Yeah.
okay, but folks, if just in case you don't know the difference, they had an audit on how their books were being kept, and that should always be a clean result. Otherwise, they're playing games with the books.
Okay.
However, that doesn't mean that they passed the physical stress test, and that's FIS.
She can come in, Mark.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, come on in. So it's still.
Well, that's it. I mean, just because you pass your audit means that all that means is they didn't find anything. It
Well,
doesn't mean that you're not doing anything.
I mean, there's no embezzlement going on.
I'm not saying there's anything bad going on there. I just think that the way that they report their finances are very
Right. And speaking of
unique.
finances,
Yes.
today's April 1st.
Yes.
Folks, you got 2 weeks to file your extension or to get your taxes
And aren't you
in.
proud of us? I really wanted to do an April Fool's joke today, but he wouldn't let me do it.
Yeah, I was going to say, by the way,
Yeah.
I was going to think of Clear Lake City Council has reversed their decision and is going to allow 100 plant grow.
Yeah.
That didn't work. So
That would have been a good one.
that would have been a good one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah. So anyway, and so folks, if you need to haven't filed your tax return, you got 2 weeks. If you don't have anything ready, file your extension. If you need help filing your extensions, you can give me a shout on Facebook or call the office or email me, and I'll be happy to do that for you. I just require a little bit of information, and it's easy for me to do because all I just do is press a button and it goes directly to the IRS.
And there's like no charge for that, right?
No, I don't charge for that.
Yeah.
I make new friends by
And
doing
Peter
that.
also will examine your current tax return at no charge and make sure that you got all your deductions you should have and are paying the least amount of tax you should be paying.
That's for even if you already filed 2014, I'll be happy to have a look at it and see if I can find some additional deductions for you.
It's never too late.
Never, isn't that a song too? It's never too late.
Never too late.
Yeah,
I
so-
guess.
I don't know. Anyway, I'm having fun at tax season.
Oh, goodness.
Bless
I'm
you.
having a sneezing attack.
So,
All right, we've got Sarah here. Hey,
Good.
Sarah.
Nick
You
can
want to
s-
make sure your switch is on your mic? And I'll make sure you're turned up over here. How's that?
yeah, let's move that a little bit closer because we need to get right into there.
Okay. Can I lift it up?
Yep.
You can do anything you want with it
Okay.
to get comfortable.
Oops. That better?
Yep.
Okay.
I think so.
There you go.
Hey, Sarah Ryan is here with us, Environmental Director for Big Valley Rancheria. Welcome.
Hello, guys.
Hey, what was that
see
comment
you.
you made on Facebook to my wife about me?
What?
Oh, yeah.
I'm ready.
You already? You're making me sound like I'm a bad guy.
Oh, you're a good guy.
You're just a
This-
hard person when you want facts and figures because of your analistic.
I'm not
animalistic-
anal.
Oh, I thought she was talking about me.
No, him. He's the problem.
No, I totally, and that's what I said, is I totally agree with that because, oops.
There you go.
I totally agree with that because, I think it's certain person. We're both Pisces. That's what it is.
So that's what it is.
Yeah,
There you
we
go. I
both-
knew there was
Go.
Let's get to the bottom of
Absolutely.
it. That's kindred
Absolutely.
spirits.
So anyway, I guess you got some news and stats and stuff for us.
Yeah, we just want to get an update on what you've been up to and what's going on around town and how the water testing is coming and
Great. Well,
Did we put you on the spot?
No, no.
come on, this is what she does.
This is what I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is. We're all pretty busy. So what's happening is none of the tribes are doing any water quality monitoring on the lake in terms of cyanotoxins. We're taking
Really?
We're taking a break. I mean, it's
Okay.
it's expensive.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah. So,
we-
but you've done previous ones, so
Yes, I guess to back up in 2000, starting in September of last year, both Elam Indian Colony and Big Valley Rancheria staff were monitoring, taking water quality samples at 8 different locations on Clear Lake, and we were sending them in for the analysis of a particular type of cyanobacteria or cyanotoxin. So cyanobacteria are those blue-green algae blooms that you see on the lake, that you smell on the lake, and we were concerned about the water quality issues. So we already have federally approved quality assurance plans. So there's basically procedures you have to follow so that the results you get, are legitimate because you followed all of the steps. And that includes everything from wearing gloves, a change of gloves at each sample, to putting your bottles of stuff on ice and shipping them in a certain way and whatnot. And we got tremendously high levels at various locations around the lake. The problem of microsystem, which is a type of toxin, let me pull out. It is a hepatotoxin, so that means it affects your liver. And it's interesting if you look at the stats. I don't want to be alarmist, but it alarmed me to see it. But it's not enough to, it's a bit of a coincidence maybe. But Lake County is number 2 for counties in California for incidences of liver cancer. But when you look at the numbers, so if you Google incidences of cancer by state, it's part of cancer.gov, I think, website. Very handy little thing. But it will allow you to look at incidences of various types of cancer by race, sex, and age. So it does turn out that the incidences of liver cancer are older white males. So, but anyway, microcystins are a type of toxin that the cyanobacteria blooms produce. There are different types of cyanobacteria out there in the lake. There's at least 6.
wow.
And not all of them produce toxins.
Yeah.
So we were looking at just one particular element. In any case, there are some, not standards, but recommended guidelines, and we surpassed them big time. The highest level that we got was in Clear Lake Oaks, and the result was 17,000 parts per billion, and for microcystin, and the recommended guidelines from the World Health Organization is 20 parts per billion. From the state of California, the recommended guideline for being in the water and getting it on you and kids playing and accidentally swallowing water is 0.8 parts per billion. So we were drastically, severely over in various locations over a period of time. So when we started getting results like that, the tribes called for a cyanobacteria task force, a Clear Lake cyanobacteria task force, and we've met several times. We're working on basically a management plan that, and of course, Lake County, I mean, I'm assuming they are working on their own or have their own, although when we were with the Clear Lake Advisory Committee, we asked for that and they hadn't produced one yet. But hopefully with these new results, they will be.
Well, wouldn't it be beneficial if just for all of you work together, be more cost effective?
Well, we're the only ones doing the monitoring, so we are working together with ourselves. But they're coming to our meetings, so we're sharing information. We send the lab results straight out. No, it's completely transparent because this has to do with public health.
Yeah, exactly.
And not any sort of spin on anything. And we're and they're participating, which is great. Our next phase, actually, so we're still planning on doing monitoring at multiple locations. Big Valley did submit 2 grants for additional cyanotoxin monitoring in the lake and in fish because the toxins can build up in fish tissue. And you can't, in most cases, you remove the guts of the fish and you can consume them, and it's there might not be any cyanotoxin in it. But clams and mussels, you can't remove the liver. So there is a real concern because there are tribal members who eat, and probably other people as well, who eat clams and mussels from the lake because they are there and they've been there for a long time. So we're hoping to get some funding to do some fish tissue testing.
That would be good because I don't know. I mean, I suppose it's true that it is stored in the liver, but it seems like it would also somehow get into the rest of the flesh of the fish. I wouldn't want to eat fish from the lake.
Well, I mean, fish from anywhere are contaminated with something.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's a false hope to think that you can buy it at a grocery store.
Oh no, I wasn't saying
okay.
that. I'm just.
Okay.
I mean, I always take my fish with a grain of salt. I always see where it's from. If it's wild caught, that's what I like to prefer. Yeah. But and nowadays there's been a lot of exposure about how shrimp is being commercially done in Thailand and Asia. And,
I saw some pictures of that. I'm glad I'm a vegetarian, I gotta say.
And I really need to quit eating all that. I've stopped meat in 1974, but I still eat seafood and eggs and cheese. And so, it's like you got to watch out for the cheese because of the radiation issues. And so I try to keep with central U.S. or East Coast cheese, and try to use a lot of differentiation on the foods that we choose because of all these toxins that we're being exposed to. Well, it's ridiculous.
And that you're so right. The main thing is to know where your food comes from, and that is better for all of us anyway because you were less likely. And of course, we all get the craving for strawberries in February or something where you can't find them in this area.
Right.
But it is.
It's not natural.
No, and I remember back in the 80s and 90s that being a big movement of eating locally and eating with the season and whatnot. And it really is a lot less of a burden to the whole world.
Absolutely.
Because we're not getting stuff shipped over.
Is your sound up? I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
I only hear your normal voice.
It's the same level
as
it
Sorry, I didn't
always
mean to interrupt
is.
you.
Oh, no. It's
Could probably just turn this up a little too. How's that?
That's better.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
So that's a little bit about cyanotoxins. Hopefully we're doing fish tissue monitoring. Actually, the California Department of Public Health reached out to the tribes and they might be hopefully working with us to provide some funding for fish
Excellent.
tissue analysis.
That's
Yeah.
really good.
So
So I'd
fingers
be
crossed.
real interested to see how that comes out when you guys get
Oh,
to
yeah.
that point, because
Oh, yeah.
I've said for years that we shouldn't eat the fish out of the lake. I mean, nobody eats the organs, so it makes sense that if you're taking those out, you're probably getting less. But it seems to me there still has to be something there.
It was interesting. The salmon testing that was done by the, I think it was the Yurok tribe. They are way ahead of the game. They were doing fish tissue cyanotoxin testing in 2005
Oh my gosh, good for them.
because they've been having the blue-green algae blooms since then.
And where are they located?
Northern California. I couldn't say. I'm really bad with locations.
I think it's like somewhere near Humboldt, maybe.
Yeah, I
in
think
that area.
they could
Like
be.
Blue
Yeah.
Lake.
But
maybe.
the Hoopa and Yurok and Karuk are generally in the same area.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, what they found was that, and salmon travel a very long way, right? They found that at the end of the season there was cyanotoxin levels, very low levels, below the what OEHA, the Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment, has recommended in the state of California for fish consumption. So it was below that, which is great. But these, salmon are traveling through many types of waters.
Sure.
And the fish in Clear Lake are stuck in Clear Lake.
Stuck in Clear Lake, yeah. No,
So-
that brings me to the next question, which is which has just gone out of my brain.
Here we go.
Oh, okay. I can already guess. Which I wasn't really prepared for, but the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science study about the viruses in the green algae, the stupid gene or something like that.
Oh,
Stupid
yeah,
virus.
that's something
Is
I
that
wanted
it?
to ask you too. But what I was going to say about the fish, though, just to finish that out, is a lot of people still eat the fish out of the lake. Surprisingly, a lot of people still swim and go in the lake during the summer and other times, and when it's the cyanotoxins are the highest. Gets back to what my question was. Do you feel like, and a lot of water, drinking water, is drawn out of the lake? Do you feel that the water systems are actually able to get the cyanobacteria out of the water in their filtration efforts?
That's a good question that I don't think anybody has the answer for. But very well, I want to bring up 2 points on that. The first is, I think that people should, in an informed fashion, absolutely still use the lake, still eat the fish, so that so that the demand is there, that it has to be better. Because if people move away and say, heck with it, I'm just going to go in the swimming pool, at the high school or something, there's less and less usage. And then agencies can say, well, nobody's really doing it.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
And it's the same.
There has
with-
to be victims in order for them to fix the problem.
It's more of a demand, yeah. And I mean, I don't want to see anybody sick, obviously. I mean, nobody wants to see anybody sick. But we also, so that's why you need to be informed. And the information is going to come from evaluating, and from agencies or whoever, evaluating the safety, and the public, citizens monitors. So I hope that people don't just, say, oh, forget it, I'm only going to go to Blue Lakes now, or Berryessa or whatever, because frankly, we need to fix our problem here. So with the cyanotoxin levels in, 17 water purveyors, or I think one of them is inactive, and one of them was the Canocti Harbor. So there might be 16 water purveyors that are actively taking their water from the lake. They have if you read the watershed sanitary survey that that is put out every 5 years, and the last one was 2012. It talks about the different, and you can find it online. Just go, I think with Clear Lake Watershed Sanitary Survey. I think it's online. It's a PDF, or I can also email it to people if people reach you about it. But it talks about the different treatment systems of each plant, so it's very helpful. And the cyanotoxins are known to come out through green sand, through granulated active activated carbon, I believe is what it's called, GAC. And all of the systems have that.
So it does. The carbon does take out the cyanobacteria.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
It does. Now, no, do carbon filters at people's point of use work? I don't know. I mean, hopefully when it is going into the distribution system from the plant, so the water is coming from the lake, it goes into the treatment plant, it gets treated, it gets filtered, and then it goes into what they call the distribution system to everybody's tap. So hopefully by the time it enters, it's done with the treatment, the cyanotoxin levels are to non-detect. But when you're getting hits, so the previous levels of cyanotoxin in the lake that were studied was in 2011, and it was a UC Santa Cruz folks that came up. There was Mione, and there were others, PhDs who were looking at that. And I know other people in the county are aware of that report, and it's great because they actually tested multiple locations over multiple months in the lake. The highest that they got was 29. So when we got 17,000 and we got 870 in Lakeport and we got 500 and something, I think it was 500 and something at Sulfur Bait Mercury Mine, and it was multiple locations had multiple hits that were way higher than over a period of time even than what was seen with UC Santa Cruz. Then can the treatment facilities handle that? Is the question. Has
there been any tests done after filtration to see if there's anything?
Well, once we started getting, so what my understanding is that I know already that the California Department of Public Health, which handles drinking water stuff, it has moved to the State Water Resources Control Board. Okay, so just for where are they now? So the people who are working with the water purveyors and requiring to see their data and making sure that they meet all of the requirements for the California Safe Drinking Water Act, they are now at the State Water Resources Control Board, which is kind of cool. That means drinking water and wastewater and pollution and water quality issues are all in the same location.
Very
the State
cool.
Water Resources Control Board. And
So you're saying the state is now overseeing that? There's no one in the county that looks at the water company's reports. We just got one in the mail a few weeks ago. And I don't know how to read it worth the darn.
You have it with you?
Yeah, actually, I was going to show it to you. Let me go get it.
Well, July 1st, there's a requirement for every drinking water system to submit their it's called Consumer Confidence Report. So if you just got something in the mail, I'm not sure what that would be. It's not the Consumer Confidence Report.
Well, our water company on an annual basis gets their wells tested.
Oh, okay.
And it's just that being a dumb accountant, I have no clue even how to read it.
Yeah, you would think they would provide some instructions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a blood test report. You see, here's the...
It is.
It is.
Oh,
okay. Cool.
Okay. So, let me do my best. Very quickly. So, but water system name is Bay Cliff. Oh, yeah, so it's your 2014. Did they just send this to you?
We get it the first of the year every year.
What?
Yeah.
You get it the first of the year every year?
Approximately, yeah.
That's a violation of the California Safe Drinking Water Act. This is required by July 1st to every. It is a requirement at the federal and
that's
state
from
level.
2014.
Well, it does look at the. Yeah, that is bizarre. It's supposed to come July 1st of every year for the previous year. So I see that they're doing it by an annual calendar year as opposed to the other way.
I have to let them know
that. That does not sound right. Okay, so they tested. What they're saying is they tested for total coliform bacteria and fecal coliform. You've had no violations. It wasn't above the guidelines, the maximum contaminant level. So that's good. Lead, you had no sites exceeding the action level for lead. So that's good. Same with copper. So far, so good.
Yeah, it's a private well.
Oh, it's private well.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, it's a water company, but they're just a well, and they service our neighborhood, basically.
Okay. Yeah. Everything. So the TTHMs is basically when you chlorinate a system, chlorine breaks down into cancer-causing materials, and the water systems have to test for that on a it could be every 2 years, every 4 years. It depends on how high they are, but yours are the max it can be, or the maximum contaminant level it can be is 80, and yours was less than 0.5.
Cool.
That's fantastic.
Excellent. Yeah, because I know they do add the chlorine, and that's the only thing they put in the water that I know of.
Well, oh yeah, it'll say in here the thing about and the thing about chlorine is sometimes these systems have to put a ton of chlorine in to kill, especially from the lake. So surface water systems have much higher TTHMs, total trihalomethanes. I think that's what that is. Because they're having to get rid of a lot of stuff, and when you use a lot of chlorine, the breakdown products are higher. So thankfully, the federal and the California Safe Drinking Water Act say you can only you have to watch your chlorine inputs because your cancer-causing breakdown products, or it's called disinfection byproducts. So it's a disinfection byproduct rule. So it sets those levels.
Can kill you.
Yeah, it will give you. It can give you cancer.
Basically,
Nice.
Which will kill you. Yeah. So it looks like, so basically the column that says MCL, maximum contaminant level, is the max. That's what the law says. It cannot be higher than that. All of yours, so if you look at your level detected and your maximum contaminant level, you'll see that every single one of them is below the maximum contaminant level, which is great. And the things that they tested for, or the things that are listed here, are all things that they got detects for. They had to test for other things, and if they got no detect, then they're not necessarily going to list them.
Oh, good.
Cool.
Yeah. So
That sounds
anyway,
good. That
this
makes
is
me feel
actually an
better.
A+ report card.
Ooh, that makes me feel good.
Yeah,
Except that they
it's good.
gave it to us 6 months later.
I would
than
really
they
check
should've.
on that, because it's supposed to be July 1st is the
Yeah,
requirement.
because it says here February 20th.
So if being a normal person, well, as normal as I can get, not knowing how to read those reports, I assume every person that's part of a water company system, they get these reports. Who would they contact to get it deciphered?
They start with the water company itself and say, I'm really not sure, what does this mean? In reading it, the definitions, it's required by law that the Consumer Confidence Report has definitions for all of those columns. So you just have to sit down with a cup of coffee or maybe a beer or a glass of wine and just go through the thing point by point. But the main things you want to look at, 3 things. You want to look at the contaminant, the things that they're measuring for, and then you want to look at the level detected column, and then you want to look at the maximum contaminant level or the action level. Each type of contaminant has either an MCL or an AL.
That is right.
Yeah, so just compare
But
it.
do they define why copper or lead, how that affects your health? I mean,
No.
nothing.
No. It's like, here's a tool to say what the levels are.
Right.
Most agencies don't want to provide,
Obviously.
those links.
Right.
Yeah, those links.
I mean, obviously, you can go on the internet and find out, but I thought there might be a disclosure statement with these reports to stipulate what each
could do.
Right.
No, they're not required to do that. They're not required to do that. There is a little bit that says, in lead and copper, and if you have hard water, which a lot of us do here, then because of the volcanic activity and the minerals that are in our water, so hard water breaks pipes down faster. It's corrosive, and every pipe or every meter, every system, every distribution system has a little bit of lead and copper in it. Even the water meters where they read it has some lead in it. They've only 2 years ago in California, they required them be lead free. But they're not even lead free, they're low lead. So
No
if you have an
way.
old water meter, the water is coming through a meter that has lead in it and going to your house.
Nice.
And if you have hard water and they're not doing treatment for hard water, which is
Pretty much everybody.
yeah, it probably could be. Then you're getting some lead in your, but the thing is that they tested 5 places, and of course they're going to test the 5 places that they know don't have a problem. That's how those things go. So
now, when the water gets
test the
into
worst
your
places.
house, maybe I'm getting overboard here. Is there, if you have copper piping and stuff like that, could that also?
Oh yeah.
It can.
Yeah, that's a big problem, yeah.
But for the lead and, okay, this is a lot of detail, but for lead and copper, they actually have to test at the tap. It's a cold water test after 6 hours. I don't know why I know that, but because I used to run a public water system. But a lot of the things that they test at it's called the entry point to distribution system. They test right at the plant after all the treatment has happened, and that as soon as it starts to the distribution system. they test. But for lead and copper, they test at the tap. So they conceivably are getting the service lines and the pipes and stuff that people have in their houses. So, but there's so many those folks are hooked up to so many. There's so many people, that have get the drinking water from. Is it a well?
Yeah.
Okay. That, you want to pick your 5 that aren't going to have any problems potentially.
Right. Now, this might be the wrong terminology, but is there like some type of litmus test that a homeowner could buy to test their own water?
Oh, probably. I think there's certain things that you can test, like total and fecal coliform. So the the E. coli bacteria that can it could actually kill you if it's high enough, or give you a lot of digestive upset. Those I think you can get those online. I'm sure you can. It's of course, it's worth. Oh, and this brings up filtering. I want to talk about that for a second, but. Yeah, there probably are. And what you should do is base it on your consumer confidence report. So if you have, you want to see what the contaminants are that are in your water system, and buy your filters the same way. In the state of California, it's required that the filters have to state, there has to be literature with every filter you buy, and even if you're buying it online, that says this is what it filters out. You don't need to buy a Cadillac when all your problems are this one thing. It's not. You don't need to.
Right. So you could go to your annual report, look at what's close to the accepted limits, and then buy a filter that meets those criteria.
Yes.
Interesting.
Exactly.
I didn't. I see the commercials about water filters and stuff, and this eliminates this. This eliminates that.
Reverse osmosis. I mean, I just am one of those people who would rather have it completely everything taken out than take a chance, And especially in Arizona where there is a lot of toxicity in the tap water.
The groundwater is a lot of arsenic and stuff.
Yeah.
Now, the one bad thing about RO systems is that it wastes a lot of water.
Yes, it does.
It does. And I always thought that some inventor out there that could figure out how to recycle that water that is taken out of the RO process could just make a fortune if you figured out a way to recycle that water into something, like a gray water recycling or some kind of thing.
I've never seen one in operation, so
we've used them forever.
And you might not really need to with water like that.
That's what it looks like. I just drink it out of the tap right now.
Yeah, we don't have anything at this current house.
I have faith.
Yeah.
Just in Arizona.
Yeah. Oh, I see. And Arizona definitely has groundwater problems.
Yeah.
But it sounds like if we got a carbon filter, we don't really have a problem even with cyanobacteria because it's a well, so we probably don't even need to go that far.
Yeah,
it's got a lot of heavy, not heavy metal, but calcification and that kind of
thing. The minerals, which people take minerals as a health supplement. So,
exactly. But my gallbladder is saying I'm taking too many.
Yes, I hear that. The one thing that carbon filters does do, and I'm not an expert on this, but it will get rid of taste and odor, and the drinking water systems are required to have a chlorine residual all the way to the very last tap at the end of the row.
Right.
So, and I think it needs to be at least 0.2 parts per million for chlorine. So you're going to have a certain amount of now 4 parts per million is swimming pool chlorine levels, I think. So 0.2 is a lot less than that. But if you do want to filter out any of that last residual, carbon filters are great, and then that's what you'll see if you buy a filter and you're looking for that. Is
let me go a different.
It'll take chlorine residual out.
Good, that's good to know.
Okay, in the news,
actually let plant water sit 24 hours and let the chlorine dissipate.
There you go.
You know,
but
for us, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So.
A hand is coming in.
I can't read that. You're the
Hot
expert.
Off the presses?
Anyway, a couple of weeks, this week or last week.
Thank you, Mark.
There was a news report that somewhere in the Bay Area, I believe it was, someone was drinking their tap water and they had this horrible taste and smell to it, and the water company or whomever was looking at this said, "Oh, don't worry about it. It's just blue-green algae. Yeah, it gives you bad odor and bad taste, but it's still very drinkable."
Well, number one is there are no standards yet for cyanotoxins, which is a toxin produced by the blue-green algae or the cyanobacteria. In May of this year, EPA is releasing national guidelines for what those levels need to be. The World Health Organization has already set a limit back in the 90s or maybe earlier of 1 part per billion of microcystin. Now, again, microcystin is just one type of, I'm going to give you guys this. It is just one type of toxin that's produced by one type of bacteria or several types of bacteria in this cyanobacteria. So the chart I'm giving you says toxin producing bacteria. Everything in the cyanobacteria column is what's been found in Clear Lake thus far.
Lingbia has been found too.
Lingbia, and I remember they were talking about Lingbia a lot in the early years
Dr.
of
Z
this.
talked about that forever.
And that is also it can be a hepatotoxin or a neurotoxin. Now, so there's a column that says cyanobacteria, and then the column that says toxins produced. So, if you see, we were testing for microcystins, so that means, and you can see the word microcystins actually in multiple different rows of. So the cool thing is, with us testing microcystins, we were actually able to look. It means that if there was a few of these different kinds of cyanobacteria, it would have been that were producing a toxin. The microcystin could have been identified with any of those.
Nice.
So, and then it says what type of toxin it is: a neurotoxin, which is something that could kill you, or hepatotoxin, which could, goes to your liver and could also kill you. It's geosmin and MIB. Geosmin, I don't know how to pronounce it, but those are taste and odor compounds. I think this chart is really helpful because if you are smelling or tasting algae, that means that is being, I believe, the way this chart reads, that it's being produced by one of these different types of cyanobacteria.
So potentially it could be somewhat dangerous?
Well, the taste and odor compounds are not the toxins. It's the taste that
But
comes
it can
with
warn
it.
you that there is a toxin there.
Yes. Yeah. So if you look at the taste and odor, so since we were getting microcystin hits, if you start counting out, so if you're looking for microcystin and in one of these taste or odor compounds, that means when we were down there and we were testing for microcystins, and people were smelling algae, then it was not Lingbia, okay, because we were getting microcystin hits. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, I got you.
So you look for microcystins. It could have been oscillatoria. So if you do it weekly in 8 locations over about a 25-week period or a 20-week period, you're talking tens of thousands of dollars. So that's why we were looking for funding for it. And but we are going to do it definitely at the heat of the summer when the blooms are starting to arise and
Good. Yeah, that's the best time to do the testing anyway.
Yeah.
So where do you get the funds for to do that?
Where Big Valley got it this last year was from a Clean Water Act grant that the tribe has that allows us to do water quality monitoring on the lake. We have a program going back to 1999 where we've been doing water quality testing. We submit the data to WQX, which is the Water Quality Exchange. It becomes part of a national database. So that's where we get the funding from. If we get one of these other grants where we applied for a US EPA and a Cal EPA environmental justice grant to do additional testing and also the fish tissue monitoring, and we'll see if we get either of those. And I believe that ELEMS came from another US EPA grant.
Okay. I'm sure you've heard that the county or Bill Dodd has put a bill together to provide funding. I don't know if it's going to be directly to the county or not, but for help. It is. Okay, to help improve the lake, which is what, I hate to bring the subject up, but what the lake tax was for.
I know.
So we're getting funds from the state in lieu of having to tax our lovely citizens additional funds.
Since our lovely citizens did not vote for it en masse. Thank you very much, Lake County citizens. No,
but seriously, we interviewed Bill Dodd a couple of times during the elections, and we were pretty strong in emphasizing the need of him representing Lake County and not the counties he was more familiar with. And he said, no, I'm absolutely going to do it. So it's nice to see him actually keeping his word during the election process and actually moving forward with attaining funding, hopefully, for us to help fix the lake.
Yes, I'm really looking forward to hearing more about it. We're actually going to be meeting with him next week.
Oh, cool.
On the funding and giving specific information about all the work that the tribes are doing. Most of the monitoring it's on the lake, if you don't count the water quality, the water purveyors that are getting water for the drinking water systems, is absolutely done by the tribes. and we're doing restoration projects. And
Right.
I think it's pretty safe to say we're the most active entity on and government on the lake. So
Right.
certainly, now I read the bill, and it is still in process.
Yes,
it
it
has
is.
not been approved.
Right.
But fingers crossed that it will be. But it does say that the money would go directly to Clear Lake, to Lake County.
Okay, and that was kind of going back to my previous question, and I got it kind of passed backwards, which is typical of me, is that will the county cooperate and work conjunction with what you are trying to accomplish?
Oh,
So we're being more productive and sharing the cost. We're not spending money here, spending the money here for the exact same cost.
yes. I mean, if they start doing some water quality monitoring on the lake, which would be great, then we won't want to duplicate that. Maybe
Right.
periodically to keep an eye on them. Yeah.
No
But
comment.
and because since they don't share their data,
I was going to ask you that they don't share.
no, I never see any lab results from them ever.
Well, excuse me,
ever.
don't we elect these people? Don't we?
Not
Aren't we
staff.
part of the
They don't
county?
elect staff.
No, but they still aren't accountable to the citizens and the residents of this
Yes,
county.
I think that transparency is a good thing,
Yeah.
and the more that people are aware of and require information, I think they're going to have to
Okay,
change
what
that.
department at the county level is that? I'm serious because I don't know.
It would be Department of Water Resources.
Okay,
or
thank you.
Division
Because
of Water
there are so
Resources.
many bloody departments here that
Yeah.
I just get confused.
Well, the ones that I work with the most are Environmental Health, which is headed by Ray Raminsky.
Mm-hmm.
Great guy, very helpful, and he is in charge of a lot of different things, but one of them being well permits.
Mm-hmm.
And the other being they do some water quality testing on the lake for total and fecal coliform, or for E. coli at the during Labor Day, Memorial Day, and 4th of July. So they go to 6 or 7 different water or different resorts and do water testing because of the swimming that's happening. So all they do is the E. coli, but that's still great because it's a public health thing.
Right.
So they're active, and they do other things too. I think the kitchen, like what do you call it? Certified kitchen, so you can sell food.
right.
That type of thing. They do, and septic systems. Oh, that's the other thing, is they permit septic systems. So that's what they do. And then the Division of Water Resources, headed by Scott DeLeon, is who does groundwater monitoring. I want to talk about Sustainable Groundwater Management Act too. But groundwater monitoring, they coordinate with the state. When the state comes out and does their monitoring on the lake, they come out 6 to 8 times the state comes out 6 to 8 times a year since the 40s or 50s to sample in 3 sites on the lake.
Right.
So they have a lot of
Okay.
water quality monitoring.
By the way, Bill Dodd's office has been in contact with us, and he's going to be appearing on our show hopefully as soon as possible.
Oh, excellent.
He has a busy schedule, obviously.
But
We're
we have
just
him scheduled. I think
Oh, we
it's
do?
later on this month, like
Okay.
the 20th or something.
Cool.
Is he coming here?
No,
Oh, okay.
he's only going to
Unfortunately.
call in. We begged for him to come in personally, but
So away, but
he's
yeah.
so busy.
Yeah.
no, during his
That's
camp.
great. If you guys post it or let me know, because I want to ask him a question.
Yeah,
too.
no, that's why I mentioned it, so
Yeah.
you could kind of call in.
Yeah,
And,
well, you'll see it. We'll post it.
Okay, cool.
Definitely. Yeah.
That's
Jeez, I don't want to interrupt, but this is kind of a water-related thing that just came across my Facebook, and I just think is absolutely crazy. The Lower Colorado River Authority settled on an agreement with the North Atlantic Iceberg Authority for the purchase and transport of an iceberg to Lake Travis for the 4th of July.
Oh.
really?
Yes. Now,
How are you going to
this
get
is-
into the lake?
Antoinette behavior.
Oh my gosh, do you believe that? That's so they can fill the lake with water so that they can have a 4th of July weekend that people can
How are they
bring
going to
their
put the
boats.
iceberg into the lake?
They're going to haul it by boat from
really.
Greenland. They're bringing it from Greenland.
Oh.
And then when they get to Texas, they're going to
To Texas?
to the Gulf of Mexico.
I could tell you Texas was involved. Yeah.
Of course. They're going to transport it. Okay, it's in Central Texas, okay? This is a Texas thing, of course. So they're going to transport it across over the land to get to the lake.
Obviously in a refrigerated truck.
Well, it's huge. This is like
That's what I'm saying. How the hell are they going to bring it
I'm gonna
there?
put on dry ice.
that's really sustainable. Too.
Oh, God.
Unbelievable. It's like, what are these guys thinking?
So is that
There's
the
no
answer?
water in the lake, so they're bringing in an ice.
Okay, so is that an answer to our drought?
3 weeks. to bring
Yeah,
it
there
in.
you go. We'll get it all.
Well,
from-
wouldn't that also reduce the amount of melting of the ice caps and stuff into the ocean if we started distributing the icebergs now before they melt?
right.
All right.
We'll have to just
Wow.
That
this
sounds like a
is
science
really
fiction
wild.
movie.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
They say,
definitely.
but as soon as they put it in the lake, the peak summer temps will begin melting it and causing the lake water level to rise.
God.
and they're putting it in Texas. See, in California, you couldn't possibly do that because you can't just
We wouldn't even
put
have
anything in now.
the gall to do that. Yeah, to do anything
That's a
that
set.
would change the environment like that.
But see, if
Ay,
it became
ay,
the
ay.
state of Jefferson, they'd probably allow something like that.
Let's not go down that road.
Yeah.
I agree with
we-
you. They are not environmentalists. at
No,
all.
they are trying to get.
They are
we're not
Yeah,
talking
so-
about, but they
yeah.
do not want to.
We're, we're trying to contact the gentleman that's kind of heading the state of
We're
Jefferson.
not trying. We haven't tried yet, but we would like to have him on the show, Mr. Sutter. I think his name is Randy Sutter. So yeah, we'd like to have him on.
Like
the
Sutter
show.
Wines?
I guess. I don't know if they're related though. So really crazy. That's just that to me that's mind blowing. Oh, they're going to lift it by air across the land.
Oh, helicopters,
Oh
eh?
Wow,
my
they've
God!
got-
It says
they've got
keep
some
your
money.
eyes in the sky during the month of May for the flying iceberg. Ay, yeah.
It's like,
Texas,
is that
what
like
in the hell?
Sharknado?
There's a picture of it. That's a big ass iceberg.
Leave it where it lives.
I know. It's just going to melt.
Leave it
It'll
there.
no longer exist.
I'm hearing music in the background. It's kind of soothing,
Probably
actually.
'cause I have
I like
something
it,
still
but,
running
you know.
Music in
here.
the background.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That was Little Klondike. So let's talk about our favorite
Yeah.
new bacteria that's causing the stupid
Oh.
virus. I know you have
Oh.
some information on that.
Just a teeny bit.
Yeah.
Because I noticed you were going to ask me about it. I'm like, So there is in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science, PNAS, you can get this online, but it does say that they have, let's see, we unexpectedly found, okay, lots of lab speak, but basically large DNA viruses known to infect certain green algae and have not been previously shown to infect humans or to be a part of the human virome. So green algae is not blue-green algae. Green
Right.
Right.
algae is the good stuff.
But don't we have green algae too?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
And we want to keep that because
Right.
it is food for the fish.
Sure.
And it is part of the natural cycle of the lake. But what it is saying is that they previously were not finding this, but there are viruses that can infect certain green algae, whether we have it here or not. And it's related
And I did
to,
ask Dr. Tate if she would look into that, and I never heard anything back from her, so I need to do a follow-up. But
Yeah.
I think it's worth researching and testing for, because if we can figure out that this thing is in the lake, it could answer a lot of questions. Because it actually affects your cognitive function. That's why they call it the stupid virus, because it makes people basically stupid. And their statistical data that I've seen has said that possibly a third of the population could have this living in them and not know it. So it's
See, I
kinda
always
weird.
thought it was junk food that,
That definitely is another factor.
could explain.
That's a contributing factor.
Yeah,
for
just
sure.
go into Walmart and
But it'd be
the type
nice
of food that people
find a
buy.
medical reason that could actually explain this, and maybe they
Yeah.
could figure out how to kill it, and maybe we'd have smarter people around.
Are you saying you don't like Subway?
So, I used to work at a Subway.
Subway-
Oh, okay.
Subway's-
I was a
think
Subway
Subway's
sandwich
good.
artist, man.
Oh,
in the
good for
90s.
you.
And then the
3 months,
and the
6
pretzels there.
At least you picked
I
a
haven't had their pretzels.
No, that's not Subway. That's Auntie.
I know, but they're in Walmart.
Auntie
You know. they're-
Annie.
But I used to be good, and so a bunch of us were in.
she doesn't go. in
You could
Walmart.
tell what people were going to order.
Really? Well, yeah. I
By
guess you
looking
could.
at them, yeah, you could tell whether they're going to get
Look
a
at their
fast sandwich
skin.
or a skinny
Look at their
sandwich.
skin, look at their hair, and their overall general appearance.
Isn't that fun?
So what would I order?
Maybe chicken.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
See?
He likes his Italian BMT.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's still got.
I don't
little
eat
bad
too much
habits.
meat, but every now and then, they get tired of the same old diet every single day.
Oh, for sure. I'm and the doughs have dose stabilizers in and all sorts of nasty stuff. I mean, it really is not good food. But
Thanks for the
when
warning.
you're really hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I ate a lot of Subway when I worked
bet
at
you
Subway.
did, yeah.
Yeah, because that's all the money I had. It's all about resources. If there's a whole lot going on in this lake and in all the water bodies around, and it just takes some focus.
Absolutely. And people need to be aware and be conscious when they do go around the water. I just think it's really important that they think about their dogs and their kids.
Yeah.
And how they're playing in the water and if they're playing in the water.
Well, and so let me just say that for the last several years, the county took the step of having signs up around the lake at places where people do swim. Which
the first year, though, they covered them up, which was kind of counterproductive. Do you remember that on the North Lake? That was kind of weird.
They were trying to create this thing of when you don't see it, that means that it's safer to go.
Right.
And when you do see it, you want to avoid it. But it turned out to be a fiasco. They got a lot of criticism about it.
Yeah, it kind of looked like they were trying to cover it up or whatever.
Yeah, I think it was that they were covering it up.
Uncover it when it's active, and they covered it up when it wasn't.
Right.
That makes sense.
So with the cyanotoxin testing that we did, the tribes did this last fall, we were able to get the county to change their noticing and system, their signage. And what they did was when they saw it was a call on behalf of that Karen Tate made in correspondence with the county water resources. But if the results we were getting in a certain area were higher than 20 parts per billion for microcystin, that was the World Health Organization's level that they set for moderate exposure, contact. And health moderate effects, I believe, is at 20, or maybe it's low. Sorry, either one. But it's still that there's some, there's obviously some toxins in there, but it's not going to have effects that are tremendous on a person. So they had set this. So Karen, Dr. Tate, Karen, set this at 20 parts per billion is when they're putting these extra signs up that say warning. Now, of course, we're getting levels like 17,000, so way over 20. Warning: do not enter.
Yeah.
Do not get water. Basically, you can get in the boat and go out, but don't go swimming in that area. So it didn't close beaches. That would have been way too dramatic for Lake County.
But when you see these kids swimming in this algae and it's coming off their bodies, that is just wrong.
It's at this point.
Like the fact that parents will allow that and not think anything about it. They think it's cool. They come up from the Bay Area. They don't realize the danger, and every place is not posted either. So.
Every place is not tested either.
No.
And the other thing is that the cyanotoxins dissolve. And so what happens is the cells of the plant or the cells of the bacteria, it's a photosynthesis bacteria. So if the way that it's analyzed is as an algae, but it is a bacteria that does photosynthesis. But when you
interesting. So it's almost like a plant and an
animal. Yeah. And it does the way that scientists look at it is, they do call it blue-green algae and they call it algal toxins and they call it harmful algal blooms. So all the people are like, can't call it that. It's like, I'm sorry, but the scientists call it
much worried
harmful.
About the public relations instead of the people's health. Ay, ay, ay.
But in any case, when the blooms die, the toxins release into the water, but they can be there. So even if the blooms have fallen back down to the bottom, the toxins can be in that water for some lake managers out west were saying, or out back east were saying 2 weeks. So the whole thing about avoid if you see a bloom, okay, fine, but avoid 2 weeks after.
Yeah.
Now the testing that we did, we were seeing cyanotoxin levels. They pretty much dropped down drastically because we were doing weekly monitoring. They dropped down drastically after even like 4 or 5 days. So the 2 week thing maybe is overcautious. But what public health had the signs up for a while.
In the middle of the lake?
No, it was all shoreline because that's where people recreate.
Right. Well, I know a lot of people go out in the middle of the lake to swim and stuff because they think it's better and healthier. And is that a good idea? Do you think?
I think that there are some results from the center of the lake or from further off the shoreline because I'm pretty sure that either the county was doing a little bit of that or maybe Meoni's in 2011. The results that they were getting were further out. Yeah, wherever cyanobacteria is, and of course currents are moving things, and the toxins, and so it could potentially be in the center.
Oh boy,
I couldn't say.
Joel, did we have a call?
Yeah, but they're not there.
Oh, you know what? It's probably that. I think it's that I think it's that phone. I think that phone is not working. Caller, I have to apologize. If they can call back on line 1 for today, let's try and get them back. That's 701-6416. And here they come back on line 2, but I don't think you're going to be able to hear them. I think there's something wrong with that phone. It's always something. We never can have things work 100%
No, the last time I was here, there a couple people were trying to get in.
We had this box over here, and it makes so much noise you can't even hear the people on the phone line. So I stopped using that.
Yeah, that's no good.
So if anyone wants to donate $1,000 for us to get a new piece of equipment, that's fine.
That would be really
I think, is there a tax break for that?
Yeah, actually, we're thinking about forming a nonprofit for this. So yeah, it would
good.
be. Yeah.
That would probably help. Yeah. People do this.
Well, we
Those
do
tax
have
breaks.
a possibility of a potential investor, too. So we're keeping our fingers crossed.
Good. That's good.
Yes.
Yeah, low budget operation.
And sometimes those are the most efficiently run because you're making sure, you're making
We're
use of
very
everything.
conscious of how we
Yes.
spend our
Yeah.
money, definitely.
And I think it's the same with, with any operations. We don't have a whole lot of money to do all the things that we do, but we're doing more than most. So
Right.
we're being very efficient. Yeah, it's a good thing.
It is. It is. Well, you're a musician, so I want to just share this couple of sad stories real quickly. Norman Greenbaum from Spirit in the Sky.
Oh,
He was injured in a car accident in Sonoma County just yesterday or the day before. Hopefully he's going to recover. It was a fatal accident, though. They hit a motorcycle guy and killed him.
That's not good.
And so, unfortunately. Paul Kantner had a heart attack from Jefferson Starship.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yep, and I guess he hopefully will recover. And of course, we lost Sam Andrew a couple of weeks back, a month or so back from Big Brother and the Holding Company.
Yep.
Unfortunately, and Joni Mitchell also
Yep.
passed out, and they don't know what the cause of that was. So we've had quite a few big stars, really.
Legends.
I hate to say it.
We're all getting old.
Getting
That's
old.
the sad part.
No.
Not me, though.
No.
No, not at all.
No.
No, but you were like extra super loud.
Who?
The your microphone. I
Oh.
just had somebody tell me that we had to tone you down.
I've been told that for how many years now?
We have
20 years,
we have
now,
some wonderful listeners that get us on Facebook and give us all kinds of comments.
Obviously, they're trying to tell me not to talk.
No, they're saying that you're overwhelming Sarah and I.
I'm sorry. Well, I am.
No, you're not.
You
You live for that.
I want to talk about the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act just
Yes.
for
Please
a
do.
second.
That's
Absolutely.
fine. I didn't mean to sidetrack us, but
This past year, or I'm gonna be stupid here for a second. Was it 24? Okay, 2015. I guess it basically started end of 2014. The state of California has passed a Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, which was a combination of it was September 16th, 2014. Governor Brown signed a trio of laws, collectively known as Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. And what it does is it requires certain things from medium and high priority groundwater basins throughout the whole state of California. And medium and high priority basins I've got the formula of how they did that, which is, and you could look up CASGEM groundwater basin prioritization to get this PDF. But the way that they rank it is a calculation of scores of 8 criteria. They look at population growth, public supply wells, irrigated acreage, which is from groundwater use, impacts, and there's other information. So medium and high priority basins, of which there are 127 in the state of California, and there are 2 in Lake County. And there's the Big Valley Groundwater Management Basin, and there's the Scotts Valley Groundwater Management Basin.
Really?
So beginning January 1st of this year, the work of this started, and basically by 2017, a local groundwater sustainability agency has to form that will develop a groundwater sustainability plan. So those are actually 2022 is a groundwater sustainability plans have to be adopted for high and medium priority basins, not currently in overdraft. So what's supposed to happen is that although some of us are wanting meters on these ag wells,
that would be nice. Well, I'd love to have some kind of record of how much they're actually using. It's frightening.
Well, there's this general sense of this is how good an aquifer is doing is by looking at the monitoring well data on a twice a year. That's what the county does. They have basins, basically large aquifers that are supplying, is what people are dipping their wells into, right? I mean, they're creating wells to dip into that. There are public wells and there are private wells. All the ag people are not getting their water, drinking water that's treated drinking water with chlorine and all that and all the expense of that. They're just, tapping right in and they have their own well water and it's a lot cheaper. The thing is that they use a ton of water and then there's other activities that use a lot of water such as fracking where it's not coming from a public water supply. So these private wells aren't really, they're not regulated because it's just seen as, well, it's a well on your own land and you can do what you want to on your own land and all that stuff. But now the state is saying, no, we need to look at it in an aquifer by aquifer or basin by basin basis. And the monitoring wells that are set up already, the county is reading these levels and how they recharge. So basically during the summer season, they're going to drop, the water table drops. And then as it rains, it's going to go up, or as use declines, it's going to go up. What I'm hearing from the county is that when the pears got taken out, they use a lot of water, supposedly more than vineyards, that the groundwater basins in a lot of cases, are doing a lot better. But, the county's had a groundwater management plan since 2005 or 2006, and all of them stated, if you look on Water Resources website, all of them state that they're not going to, the activities that are allowed are not going to damage the groundwater basins because we all are putting a lot of straws into these aquifers. And if anybody went to the Planning Commission hearing for the Soda Bay Road businesses that are supposedly going to hook to the Kelseyville water system, all these farmers are talking about their water going, or their wells going dry, or their wells being severely taxed in the Kelseyville area. Which I'm glad that they were being open and honest in public because they're so worried about having anything else hooked to their area. But boy, I'm going to use that information.
Absolutely.
Because okay, so you guys are actually you're sitting in a situation where the water is low. Okay, then we need to do something more about that. You have to be sustainable.
They
you have to
be.
reduce your
Absolutely.
usage or something. So anyway, these groundwater sustainability plans that have to be adopted in 2022 for those basins that are not overdrafted.
We'll be dry by then. Who cares?
Well,
dead by then.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate
ridiculous.
that they put it so far out there.
Yeah, that's really sad.
So when they do these water level tests, I have to assume that's a public record?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The at the Water Resources, the Department of Water Resources website on the county's website, co.lake.ca.us. You go to the Water Resources division, and there's a groundwater section on the left-hand side. Click on that, and yes, it will absolutely give you the historical averages, highs and lows, and like what the current is.
Okay.
It's very helpful. Now you can look at it and go, okay, well, what does this mean? Why is this actually good or bad, or is it high or low?
What's the relevance?
And it doesn't quite tell you that. So,
okay. So you got to know a little bit about what you're looking at.
Like everything.
I mean, it's not simple. Well, we had X amount of square meters of water versus this year, right?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. So what's your take on what happened over at the vineyard on 29 that they say the water went bad?
What happened? I don't know.
The rumor is the water went bad and it killed all the plants. And that could explain why they've never put anything into the property next door that has the big ravine going through it.
Oh, yeah.
They've never done any cultivation on that land either.
Well, what's right above all that?
It's
Go to Google Earth.
It's
Get up on.
It's part of the Red Hills, isn't it?
I forget the company's name, but they're doing gravel extraction up there.
Yes, they are.
Yes.
Yeah, or something. They're doing extraction of something. Maybe boron. I don't know what it is, but look. Go to Google Earth and look at at Manning Flats, the huge crack there, and then see the love Google Earth for things like this.
Isn't it awesome?
But yeah, but you can see the extent of the cutouts of the mountain there, and then look at, I think it's called Thurston Lake.
Yes.
Yeah.
And look how polluted that looks.
Well, no, so
I want to get a
Thurston Lake is
drone
not
and drop it down
polluted.
there.
It's actually pumice in the lake.
Okay.
And it has a lot of phosphorus in it as well, according to the photographs that Jim Steele had taken of the phosphorus areas. It's one of those phosphorus-producing places, but it's a volcanic feature that is left over from the old volcanic days that is basically a lake filled with pumice. And that's what makes it look the way it is.
Well, it used to be like that?
Yeah.
And those flyover, those blue water satellite or whatever that thing is called.
Yes, the ones that did the photos.
Yeah, look at it very carefully. They are not measuring phosphorus. Mm-hmm. It says total phosphorus on there.
Really?
They are not measuring phosphorus. They are measuring sediment loading, and they're saying they're calling phosphorus as the proxy. Basically.
Well, that's because they say that our soil naturally has a lot of phosphorus in it. Therefore, it would come in the runoff.
It does.
I think that's the logic in that.
Well,
part
we were talking. So how come if phosphorus is one of the things that cyanobacteria needs to thrive, then how come the cyanotoxin levels at Middle Creek are very low?
And there's a lot of
if you look at that sediment, we were talking about this.
Huge. I remember that.
Yeah, and you look. We were talking about this at the Cyanobacteria
right
Task Force, right?
Interesting.
The most sediment loading seems to be, and what they always say is
Jim's
that Middle
going to
Creek.
be here, or if he's not already here,
He's here. Okay.
He's here.
Oh, hey, Jim.
Maybe we need to get him into the conversation.
Why don't we take a minute break if we can?
You want to stick around?
I can stick around for a little bit
Because he might be able to answer your question.
Let's take a break.
Okay, let's take a break, and we're going to play my song now.
My song?
That you didn't want to hear before.
Oh.
A little Mendo Dope.
I thought you meant Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young for our song.
No, Pato Banton and Mendo Dope.
Okay.
All right. Hopefully they'll be performing for us July 4th weekend at Fire in the Barn. We'll be right back. This is Terry and Pete in Lake County Magazine.
Mendo Dope, Oldie, the tree planter, and Pato Banton. We do not sniff the coke. We only smoke Sensimilla. Yeah, man. Dedicated to the ganja farmers all over the world. The healing of the nation. Ganja. The cannabis culture. The seed planters who sprout life. Oldie and Pato Banton. Now let me tell you this one story, it was nothing but the truth. The first time I done seen the weed, man, I was just a youth. This man gave me a seed, said give it water, let it root, and you can grow this plant yourself and keep it for personal use. So I took it in my hand and headed home to grow this wana. I put it in the soil and became a ganja farmer. Now everybody smoked it, even President Obama. But when it comes to coke, I do not like it, I'm a goner. I do not sip the coke, I only smoke Sensimilla. I do not sip the coke, I only smoke Sensimilla. I do not sip the coke, I only smoke Sensimilla. Not gon' sniff the coke, I only smoke Sensimilla. Now I walk into a party with my crew smoking a spliff. I see them people in the back, that coke ain't what they sniff. They asked me if I wanted to, say no and do not take it, and threw his crack pipe on the ground just so that I could break it. No, I don't want no opium, no angel dust or acid. I only burn the reefer, hit it twice and then I pass it. Don't wanna be no zombie off of basalt, this is tragic. If they don't got no ganja, then I ride off in the traffic saying do not sniff the coke, only smoke Sensimilla. I do not sniff the coke, I only smoke Sensimilla. I do not sip the coke, I only smoke Sensimilla. We do not sip the coke, we only smoke Sensimilla. Tell them nah, sniff no coke, that's no joke. Original Banton touchdown again, you know. Easy and do. Yeah, man. Well, it's been a long time now, but trust me, I can still remember. And when it comes to the ganja club, me a long time member. Do not sniff the coke from January to December. Lord, it's time to legalize the herb, yes, I'm a true defender. In February 1985, Pato became a winner because I did that tune called Hello Tash, got it to Sheba. It shooted up the charts and nearly gave my mama heart failure. She looked at me and said, boy, me glad me grow you proper. I sound like you would put the pride and joy of any mother. Don't make the fame get to your head,
just think about your future. Well, doses of encouragement just made me push on further to break down any walls and also break through any barrier. I got a lot of guidance from GT, who was my manager. Assistant from non-Christy Fashion helped me cross the border. I also got a lot of aid from good Sensi Mila. That's why I do not snort the coke, I only burn the ganja. I do not sip the coke, I only smoke Sensi Mila. I do not sip the coke, I only smoke Sensi Mila. Me nah go sniff the coke, I only smoke Sensi Mila. I never sniff the coke, I only smoke Sensi Mila.
I'ma let them know, Pato. We still don't sniff the coke. We don't promote it. Strictly ganja. Take a whiff. Not a sniff. Well, I'm from the hills of California, way up in Ukiah. I can tell you, you don't need nothing but weed to get you higher. You can eat it, vaporize it, even spark it with your lighter. With hash and honey oil, who needs cocaine up inside you? I'm talking to the people in the crowd, must let you know. Don't ever let peer pressure take you down that evil road. These chemicals and drugs cause a system overload. Why I only smoke the Sensimilia.
I do not sip the coke, I only smoke
Sensimilla.
I do not sip the coke, I only smoke
Sensimilla.
I do not sip the coke, I only smoke
Sensimilla.
Me nah go sip no coke, I only smoke
Sensimilla. High grade.
Strictly Sensimilla. We say no to the coke,
No.
cause cocaine is a joke. Damage your nose and your throat. Give your heartache and stroke.
Don't wanna stroke.
Don't sniff the coke. Tell them men don't do.
We only smoke Sensimilla. The planters of the trees. Pato Banton and Old E. Sensi smokers.
All right, little Mendo Dope, Pato Banton, and
I really thought you were going to do
Sensimilla.
Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, Our House.
Stop. When it's our anniversary, I'll play that. Don't even go there.
Which anniversary you want to play it on?
Whatever one you want. I don't really care. I mean, we got, how many do we have?
Too many?
Which anniversary?
Well, we have our
Tip that just a little closer to you. Well, we had our spiritual ceremony in October of 1999.
October. Yeah, that's correct.
But
Yes.
we could not get legally married for various reasons until a few years later.
Yeah.
So that was July of
So you got two there.
Yes.
2001, I believe.
It kills me financially every year.
I know.
And then we're going to renew our vows, so that'll make the third one.
You still want me?
Yeah, for now.
Yeah,
You'll
okay.
do.
Yeah. Till I get life insurance, then I'm going.
So,
She can get away with it.
That's
exactly. Life insurance would be good.
hey, no comments from the peanut gallery.
So
Okay,
welcome,
let's get
Jim.
serious.
We've got Supervisor Jim Steele here.
Yeah,
District
thank
3, 90 days. You've been in office. How's it been going?
So almost 100 days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Isn't that
but
crazy?
who's counting, right?
Right?
How's it been going?
Well, before we get started, let's go ahead and get the questions that we were just asking with Sarah regarding
Yeah.
those satellite photos and the analysis that was done by the Blue Water Research Group, or whatever they're called, as far as what was being seen on the photographs, especially the Middle Creek. You know, Sarah's been doing a lot of testing for cyanobacteria and other things, and she was saying that, in her opinion, the discharge that was coming out of Middle Creek was more of a sedimentary runoff than a phosphorus issue. And Sarah, I'm gonna let you take it from there.
Well, if you go to, I'm not really uber prepared for this topic, but it was something that came up in our cyanotoxin or cyanobacteria task force, which is the satellite photos. The one that I've seen that's kind of one of the most highly put around is December of 2004, where they're basically a flyover of December of 2014. Sorry, I believe it was 2014, maybe 2013, but it was it was in the month of December, and it was calling it total phosphorus. But if you go to the Blue Water Satellite website and you get or you look at the full report of it, it's actually sediment loading is what they're looking at. So that was the point that I was making. But in the discussion of it that we had at the Cyanobacteria Task Force is the majority of the sediment loading is happening in the Middle Creek area, which is why there's been these plans to do a Middle Creek restoration project, because it would reduce the sediment loading into Clear Lake and the nutrient loading into Clear Lake by a very large percentage. But the cyanotoxin, the cyanobacteria blooms are mostly in the arms of the lower arm of the lake and the Oaks arm, but the sediment loading that's happening there is much less than what's happening in Middle Creek. So either it's all rushing down to the other side, but you even look at the cyanotoxin level, it is not very. That we did testing in Lucerne, or that was one of the sites of Elam Indian Colony, and the levels of cyanotoxin throughout the whole period where we were testing was quite low. So, okay, fine. If all the sediment loading, or even if all the phosphorus loading, or the majority of it's happening up there, it's not linked that strongly to where the cyanotoxin problems are, based on our monitoring of this last year.
And
That's
what
all I
do
wanted to
you
say.
have to say
Well,
about
there
that?
was a lot in what you just said. But
Yes, I know. And I know we're kind of catching you off guard.
Yeah.
We're
and
prepared for
that's
this.
it's all fair. Well, here's the thing: when you, it depends on which image that you're looking at. When you're looking at the winter images, where there's very fine particulate matter that comes out into the lake, anything down to 4 feet is going to be interpreted. The electromagnetic wave reflections that are picked up by the satellite. Anything down to 4 feet in the water column is going to be interpreted. So if it is full of sediment, a very fine particulate matter, and if it has phosphorus in it, then what you're looking at is phosphorus that's in the sediment, that's in the water column. And so in that interpretation, she's correct. So that's what happens in the winter. So you see this big plume come out, which is this particulate matter, and it is high in phosphorus. The soils around here are some of the highest in the nation with regard to phosphorus, but it's unavailable. That is phosphorus that if you were growing plants in your backyard, unless they had cyanobacteria on their root nodules and that sort of thing, converting it out of the soil to phosphorus for your plant.
So the
you
plants
wouldn't
don't
be picking it up.
benefit from what comes naturally in our soil?
That's correct.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty locked up. So,
That's a drag.
you know, to
Yeah,
the extent
isn't
that
it?
it's wet, to the extent
So you
there's
still have to
bacteria.
add it as a supplement
Well,
then
you can,
if you need
but
it.
There's some plants that can convert it. And so that's because they have these bacteria nodules and whatnot. So not to go into that too far. But what happens later in the summer, after all of the sediment plume has settled down, it's settled down to the bottom of the lake. You have a drop in pH, a drop in oxygen, a raise in temperature. Phosphorus is basically cooked up out of the sediment into the water column. And you can have several hundred metric tons of phosphorus, which is available for cyanobacteria, phytoplankton, other plant growth in the water column. That phosphorus picked up by blue water satellite and interpreted is available phosphorus. So there's two types of phosphorus you're looking at. So once you get through all of that, you say, well, how much are we really dealing with here, and when do we get it? And those were the interpretations we were trying to do with this little study. And when you look at the cost for these different images, they're fairly,
Unbelievable.
they're fairly expensive.
Yeah.
And so we were trying to get the series that would kind of give us a clue of how it happened. Now, the reason we were doing that is because we wanted to look back at the information that was available at Clean Waters reports and a lot of other reports. I'd read almost 500 scientific documents about Clear Lake, and I had them all stacked at one time. So that's just little reports on top of reports on top of reports, and then references. So every time there was a reference, I tried to string it back to see who was really dealing with it in the beginning. A lot of the research came from the East Coast, a lot of it came from Europe, some came from Canada. But with all of that, the way that it works here in Clear Lake is that we get our sediment loading, or fine particulate matter, during these storms that can move the sediment into the lake. So it has to be a storm of some consequence. We only get sometimes we don't get any storms at all, right?
Yeah.
But from
What
1
storm?
to 5 storms a year that are of significant material coming down, that'll actually move sediment into the lake. And sometimes the sediment stages on the way down. So what you see coming in the lake may be from 4 storms ago, 4 years ago, staging its way down till it finally gets very close to the lake, and then gets picked up, kind of a bed load movement, gets picked up and then moved into the lake. Sometimes what you're looking at is sediment that's been stored for who knows how many hundreds, thousands of years in the banks of meadows, the banks of streams, and the stream banks get eroded away, and then that comes into the lake. So when we do the gravel mining, we do the upsetting of the riparian, then we get a lot of loading into the lake. So
that's what Sarah was just saying about over by Thurston Lake and in the problems that they're having with the water quality over there where the new vineyard's been going. And we heard that the water there had gone bad and that their first crop of vines had been killed. And
okay, let me.
There's a lot of mining going on
right
there.
after I finish this sequence.
Okay.
And then I'll get that because
Good.
what will happen in the lake, which is so important to us, is that this cooking of the bottom material, which releases the phosphorus later in the year, seems to coincide with the perfect storm. We have the clearest water right there in the spring. The sunlight reaches the bottom. Right then is about the time we start getting phosphorus up to the surface. We have cyanobacteria that is left over from the year before, which goes dormant, lays on the bottom. Different species. We have lots of species here. Different species take advantage at different times of the year, depending on who gets the upper hand. So some some of these species, like Aphanizomenon, what's another? Lyngbia. There's a couple of species of Lyngbia that will do this. Anabina will do this, where it will actually fix nitrogen out of the air. So if we have a low nitrogen, high phosphorus content available, these guys can take off and beat everybody else to the punch, and then you get that particular cyanobacteria bloom, as opposed to some other species that may have to pick nitrogen out of the water column. And phytoplankton always needs to have its nitrogen and phosphorus out of the water column. So here we get started in the spring or in the summer, about June. These start to produce in the western end of the lake because that's where you have the most sediment, the closest to the surface, where you get the sunlight on the bottom, you get that heating, you get the phosphorus coming up. There's no data for the eastern end of the lake to show how much is coming out. There seemed to be some data near the end of the reports in the 90s that showed it was coming from the western end. I would love to have more modern data, something we could really interpret that is more local and recent. But just speaking back for that, so what happens is the cyanobacteria will get started, it'll float to the surface, it develops a little gas, floats to the surface, tries to get up where it regulates, the sunlight can hit it, it really takes off and grows. The wind comes from the west, it blows it over towards the east, and then the next cyanobacteria says, wow, look at there, I've got a free rain, sunlight hit me, it grows and comes to the surface, the wind hits it, it blows to the east, so you have a tractoring effect. You've got, if there's phosphorus being developed in the soil, the sediment of the east side, which you have to believe happens, the currents, from the wind blowing everything on the top surface, the currents on the bottom are coming back towards the west side. And so now you've got this big tractor of phosphorus-laden currents coming and feeding the cyanobacteria blooms from the west side, which is blowing to the east, and it gets pocketed right back into the arms and back into the coves. That was very, very similar to what we saw when I was here studying in the 1976-77 bloom. Alex Horn was here, and I got a chance to be on their team just a short time, but my study was up at the geysers. But I was able to kind of track with these guys, and they were seeing the same thing. It was wind blown towards the east. It gets pocketed back in by the city of Clear Lake and the arms of Clear Lake Oaks.
I knew it was all City of Clear Lake's fault.
Absolutely.
And so any of the phosphorus produced there seemed to be going the other way and getting picked up on the west side. And so when we were looking at those images, we saw this bloom of phosphorus in the surface of the lake during the hot summer, and there was no sediment. And it had to be available phosphorus, and just by interpretation or just by assumption, because that's when you're seeing it, and there's no sediment in that water column. But also what was happening was the cyanobacteria was getting near the surface, it gets cooked on the surface, and it lyses, it breaks open. These are the toxins that you're talking about. And so if that's happening, one of the things you could actually be looking at is this phosphorus that is actually being carted from one end of the lake to the other. It gets cooked, it tries to sink down, it loses its gas to try to sink down, but it can't because other cyanobacteria is underneath it pushing it up. So we get this nice big cyanobacteria layer, keeping everything towards the top. trying to push towards, I don't have any sunlight, I'm trying to get up there. The guy says, I want to get down, can't get down. It dies. You see this phosphorus all over the place. And we've got some beautiful shots of that. We said, I'll bet that's when you have the highest toxins, and that's when you need to stay off this lake, because those are real high concentrations. So no one's ever done that work. You guys are the first to start that.
Thank goodness, huh?
I think thank goodness, because it alerts us all to start looking at it.
Right.
We'd love to have that program. I'd like to have it so that we can actually record phosphorus in the water column during different times of the year. When you see those phosphorus spikes and the pH spikes that comes along with the cyanobacteria, get out there and also do the cyanotoxin,
Interesting.
reviews. So there's ways to do this, but we don't have that program here, and that's what we really
All right. Okay, let's wrap that up so we can
Sarah,
get on to...
did you have any other comments?
Well, I'm not familiar with anything that says that the sediment from Middle Creek can travel all of those miles down to Clear Lake, but I mean I know the current there are currents in here.
It actually is the phosphorus cooking out of the sediment on the bottom.
Okay.
And then that gets into the water column. And then the winds tractor it all over the whole lake. So that's what happens. It's actually available. And the estimate is it can be anywhere from 200 to 500 metric tons of available phosphorus that's now in the water column. One of the interesting things about the dam, for instance, that people don't realize, it does us a favor, because it raises the water so that it's higher and later in the summer. And it's later in the summer when they want to grow crops in Yolo County and release the water for their crops. That also is when you're going to have the highest level of phosphorus in the water column, and it drains off. So you're losing from 10 to 20% of that phosphorus. Otherwise, if you didn't have the dam, you would have a normal lake, natural lake during the summer. You'd boil off with evapotranspiration, a lot of evaporation, a lot of transpiration from the plants, and so you'd lose from, a foot a month. So from 3 months, you'd lose 3 feet of water. It really cooks down the lake, and you'd have all that phosphorus coming up out of the soil, cyanobacteria taking over. And so when there were stories about early on cyanobacteria and blooms in the lake, that was a more natural lake than we have today. Today we should have a different kind of lake because we have the dam, higher water columns, phosphorus boiling off or burning off into the water column and then draining down towards Yolo County. So for us, if we were to control the input, the external loading, and change the internal loading so that it will lock up quicker and drain off faster, we could control the cyanobacteria bloom. So that's the thesis.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting.
Well, this Central Valley Regional Water Quality Board in their nutrient TMDL, their 5-year update, they're saying that they think there's potentially 100 years of in-lake loading of phosphorus.
Well, the problem with that is that there's, and I appreciate that because it's a good guess, and I would be giving it a guess.
Those are their numbers,
Yeah, I would be giving it a guess. But here's the other thing they don't have, and this is what I'm arguing for, the kind of study we need. It's called a lockup rate, a loss and lockup rate of phosphorus. Phosphorus, when it's buried a certain depth down in the sediment, won't give off phosphorus anymore. It's locked up. You've got 900 meters of sediment there. Why isn't all 900 meters giving off phosphorus? Because it can't make it to the surface, so it's locked up. So when you go out into right outside Middle Creek during the drought, when you could walk at the little island that was made out there from all of the fines, so I said, aha, I want to see what this is made of. Put my boots on and walked out there to see if I could find out what it was. Well, I lost my boots. I almost was still out there. I mean, it started going up towards my neck. I had a heck of a time getting out of there. So you've got this very, very fine particulate matter, high in water content, high in organic matter. It's perfect for cooking phosphorus out of that sediment. But we don't know how low down in that in that sediment it actually reaches the surface. So you have to do that. Then you can determine when it boils off the top, what the lockup rate is below it, that is the amount that gets down there to where it can't reach the surface, and then how much it leaves the lake during the summertime and how much is coming in. You can then make that prediction as to whether you have 4 years or 400 years. But you can't make it until you do that. And that's what I've been arguing for. Everybody makes these predictions, and I say, wait a minute, you don't even know what the lockup rate is. So you don't know how fast it's locking up, how fast it's going off. all you're saying is you're figuring out how fast it's coming in, and you don't even have very good data on that.
No, they don't. They barely have any loading data. And after 5 years into the nutrient TMDL,
That's it.
they should have had a lot more. That was one of our
It's
complaints about it
unbelievable.
too. It's like you're supposed to be reaching that level of the TMDL by in 10 years, and you're 5 years into it, you don't even have any data.
No data, so how are you going to make a
Yeah.
prediction?
You know what's interesting? I actually understood what you just said.
What's that?
Seriously.
We're learning.
The loading and I actually understood
TMDL
that. That's scary.
I'm going to jump out here so you
Yes.
can finish
Okay,
your. But
yeah.
thank you
Good,
very
good
much.
to see you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks,
we really
Sarah.
You're doing
appreciate
good
it.
work, and everybody should realize
And see how nice I was
Yeah.
today?
That was great.
that. All right.
Thank you, and we hope to see you again. I'd like to have you as a regular, if you don't mind, because you always bring forward great information that we all need to share.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Have a good one.
Well, I'll slip over to the center here.
Sure,
Yeah.
that will make
that?
our cameraman very happy.
Yeah, they're real
Screen.
picky.
Yes.
And so the studio dog has come to greet me.
Yes,
Sure.
Yes.
this is
Okay.
Sydney. Yes, Sydney says hi to everybody when they come in. Hi, Sydney.
She says, "Oh, someone's going to love on me? Thank you."
Looking for a Chucky, I know.
Yeah, exactly.
Before, who was it? Mike Dunlap always has him in his pocket for his dog, and he came in yesterday. She was
The
right
dog
to
was
the
checking,
pocket.
right? Yeah.
But before we get started, I do want to let people know, I apologize. Our line 2 number, the 6029 number, is not working. So if you do want to call in, please use our other line. I know you did that to begin with, caller, but we told you to call on the other line, but it's not working. So the number to call is 701-6416 if you have questions either on what Sarah was talking about or comments or what Jim is going to be talking about as well.
So what am I going to be talking
I want to know, and I was kidding earlier, but I'd like to know what your feelings are and
How
what
you
you've
feel
done
being there for so long
on the
now?
first 90 days.
100
Or you say
days.
100 days.
Well, I got to say, I had retired, from the state, and it was a high intense job, and for 30 years you just got into a groove. It was intense. I was all over the state, issues going on everywhere, and you were a lot of science, a lot of distilling of issues, trying to figure out problem solving, all of that. And then I became a consultant for 10 years, which was pretty low key. I mean, there's the little jobs that you did around the state. And then I got back into this, and I'm saying, you know what? This is neat. I'm feeling good again.
Oh, good. I'm
really,
so
really
happy. I thought you were
appreciate
going to come out with something on the opposite
Oh,
end.
no.
Like, damn, I wish I hadn't done this.
Number one, I appreciate people's problems. I really do. And I enjoy helping people if I can. The frustrating part is when you can't.
Yes,
And
tell me
one
about
of the
it.
things that they send you a little class, on supervisor. Of course, I knew this going in, but they send you a little class, and the first thing that they would tell you, I think there was 40 new supervisors around the state, and we're all sitting in the same room. And they says, okay, the first thing we need to tell you, and this was by the attorneys at the session, is that you have no power.
Oh, nice.
There's absolutely no power.
my
There
gosh.
used to be a time when a supervisor would come in and there would be a certain amount of things that they could get done. But you basically, today, you have no power unless 2 other people vote with you on
Right.
a subject in
Right.
a public meeting. You
Right.
can't even tell staff what to do because it's all remote from you. The only ones that work for you is the staff that are direct reports. And that's only if they come to the board meeting and 3 people vote to have them do something. So you basically have no power. So what you have to do is the same kind of thing you do in your agency, is you try to do it on a personal basis, work with people, try to get things done in kind of a collective way because it's the right thing to do.
You have been very hands-on, by the way. I really appreciate that.
Been as much as I could be
Yeah.
without being interruptive. I didn't
Right.
want to interrupt the processes in any way. But yet I wanted to work with them to find out what everybody was thinking and see if I could influence that, which is the way we used to do it.
I know this is going to be an unfair question, but that's
Oh, here comes an unfair question.
how are you getting
Gee,
along
what a
with
surprise.
how are you getting along with the other supervisors?
Well, here's the other thing that probably people don't realize is that we hardly have any conversations at all. Because of the Brown Act and the fact that they are so busy in each one of their own districts, that there's very little cross conversation. The only time I see the other supervisors is just before the board meeting and sometimes just after. I've never had a conversation I can remember with them longer than a couple of minutes. And it's just,
Wow.
just some chatter, that's all it
Well,
is.
that's
interesting.
pleasant enough. I mean, it's better than having antagonism.
No, and there has been none. They've been very receptive of me.
Cool.
No one has given me any feeling I'm not welcome.
Excellent.
That's
I
good.
sit right next to Rob Brown, and he
I've seen
cracks
that.
jokes all the time.
Oh, does he?
It's hard to keep a straight face. You're supposed to look calm with no straight, no
Cool.
smiles, but
Well, I'm glad he's making it fun for you.
no, I'll tell you what. The public business is very serious, and people are all consumed in their issues, and they deserve respect for those issues. Unfortunately, they don't have all the information all the time.
We're getting a report that you're not too close enough to the mic.
Okay, thank you. I'll just
See, we actually do have listeners.
Yes.
okay, how's that? Ask your listener how that is.
There you go. That's good. I can hear you now.
All right. So there's a sound cone on it's pretty small, I guess.
Yeah, it
battery
is.
Mic, is it not?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a directional mic, so you
It's-
have to go right into
It's
it.
directional?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right. So,
And as usual, Peter, you're overwhelming everyone. I think I know why, though.
well,
There
move
we go.
that away a little.
It's my. Now I can't hear myself at all.
That's
Thank you.
because I just made an
She's
adjustment I
turning
should
me
have
off.
made.
Which, 20 years, she's just turns me off.
That sounds
Yeah.
like a plan to me. There we
She's
go. Now
supposed
I
to be
got
turning
mine
you off.
back where
Yeah,
it
well-
should be. That happens later.
He's
Sorry.
turning red. I don't know what that means. It's between you two, though, so I'm not going to ask any questions.
Oh, I embarrass easily.
You do.
Yeah, even at my old age, I embarrass easily. So you're getting along with everybody. You're getting comfortable and being up on that chair and looking down on your subjects.
I don't know that you look down on anyone. I think that.
And they're not subjects. Denise.
I'm sorry.
made
I'm
that-
sorry. This is supervisor.
Denise Lustalone made that mistake at City of Clear Lake, so we don't.
You really.
They're not
it isn't
subjects.
that way at all. Actually, you're sitting there. I feel very comfortable sitting there. I've had a lot of board time. I feel comfortable sitting there, and I feel comfortable listening because you have a very competent staff. You have everything laid out for you ahead of time. If you see us going through our little iPad there, that's material that we're looking at to be sure that we understand, what's being presented. And then you basically are making a motion on something you think is going to work that the others will either accept or comment on, but you're trying to do it in such a way that handles all of the data that you have. What's being presented to you through the public comment is not necessarily everything.
How long before the meeting do you get this information to review?
It comes out on a Friday, and I look at it over the weekend. I spend all day Monday, and let me announce this, that I'm in the office on Monday. If anybody has read that data, because it's available to the public too, if they need to get a hold of me and comment before the board meeting, they can do it on Monday, because that's when I'm in.
And those are people not necessarily in your own district. It's anyone in the
Anybody.
county.
I get calls, and that's the other thing I found very interesting. People will call and say, I know I'm not in your district, but, and then I listen to what they have to say, because they have a specific interest and they think that I can help them. So I try to do that.
Cool. So you're open.
I'm open.
And watching some of your activities, it sounds like you're actually taking this on as a full-time job.
Yeah, I'm there almost every day in the office or in the district or talking to someone. It's 7 days a week to me.
Cool.
It's the way it should be, in my view. But
Well, yes, I agree.
well, there's a lot of issues. District 3 is certainly different than the other 4 districts.
Definitely. Don't you have more square mileage of land
You
than
could take
anybody
the other
else?
4 districts and layer it right inside the district, so it's big.
But your population is basically the same
It's
as the
the
other
same.
districts.
And the special interest is that Highway 20 runs through the entire length of it on one side. And so we're the only one with that thoroughfare that goes through, the through traffic. And we haven't made use of it as we should, so our economic development is going to be wrapped around that, trying to get people to pull over and get a donut, in our particular area. And so there have been economic development committees, and I've made strong pitches for subcommittees so that we could work each one of the different townships within the district. There are no cities. We almost lost our only bank.
Yep.
So far, that's still being worked through. We don't have a lot of resources. There are a lot of stores. Yeah, the city of Lucerne is different than the other little towns. The city of Spring Valley, it's its own little bedroom community. It only has one little store. The Clear Lake Oaks is different than any of the others. When you look at Upper Lake, it's its own special place. Nice, all of those places in Blue Lakes, all different than each other. And so each one requires its own plan and view. and you want to help people get to where they want to be. You want it to develop on its own basis and its own attributes. So government doesn't interfere. It kind of helps things happen.
Right. So these economic studies that you're performing, are they under the county economic managers department, or is this something you're just doing on your own?
No, this is something that was started by Kelly Cox after he retired, and he pulled people together to kind of get a synergism of different kinds of mindsets. It's outside the county, but the county comes to it in order to be part of it and help out. And then I'm representing the only supervisor on that.
Oh, great.
So what is happening with these committees? Is there any ideas that have come forth, anything they want to start implementing?
Yeah, for the most part, what they're trying to do is find out, where the issues are that they can actually suppress the things that don't work very well and increase the things that do, and where do we really need a head start and all that sort of thing. Certainly the lake has to be more predictable. Excuse me. The lake has to be predictable. It can't. You can't bring people here by advertising and then stink them out with bad signs.
Thank you. This is the problem I've been saying for years.
And so one of the ideas is to put it on the web. Lake conditions good today.
Right.
So
no, that's a
they
good
won't
idea.
show up
I
loose.
love that. Yeah.
But we have to have the predictors in place, and we have a watershed protection district agency, rather. But it doesn't function with all of those pieces because we don't have the money to make it function.
Right. But I've been going up to Upper Lake more frequently than I've ever had to, and getting to know that particular area. I mean, Main Street in Upper Lake is a gold mine waiting to happen, and noticing the traffic flow going back and forth there, I would think that there's something, and I don't know what it is, mind you, but something could be done to keep people in that area initially, to attract them there, and then move forward down the lake area. I mean, it seems to be just a good location to welcome tourists coming in.
Well, absolutely, if they'll make that turn. And okay, you got a better mic there. All right. Okay.
Yeah, I can actually hear you better.
Well, not now. I don't have to turn it up.
Actually, I can though.
There we go.
Yeah, there you go. Good job. Now I can't hear him at all.
1, 2, 3.
That's good. I like that.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, Upper Lake is a gem. Yeah, how many towns do you have in the state that go right back to the time of statehood formation?
Right.
It was here in the beginning. Now, the Native Americans say, yeah, we were here 300 generations before that. And so all of that should be coming together and both be celebrated.
Right.
My idea early on, it's not mine. Everybody's had this idea, and I just, kind of stayed with it. And that is for a Native Heritage Museum run by the Native Americans with their own message placed in that museum, and then in a location where it would draw folks and be a benefit to a township such as Upper Lake.
Right.
I would love for it to happen.
Yeah,
there.
I know everyone concentrates on the lake and the recreational activities that come out of that, but there's so much more for tourism just the lake. And you hit on it. They're creating some type of museums or whatever to attract people to that area. And I hate to use the Reagan, but the trickle-down economic factor.
Well, there you go. Reaganism from you, Peter. It's amazing.
Wait, hang on a second.
Yeah, hang on a second for what?
I am extremely...
Are you backing off at that point?
No, I'm a very conservative individual. People
You're an
don't realize
eclectic
that.
guy, huh?
Just because I have long hair doesn't make me a liberal.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So, and I was a Republican at one time. Don't hold that against me, folks. But I've become anti-party, for better choice of words.
Anti-party. All right.
See, she's trying to attack me, folks. But my point is that if we can attract different type of tourism, specifically to Upper Lake, because it's such a quaint little town, that we're going to have a trickle-down basis of those dollars being spent there in other areas.
Well, there's a lot of things going on. The economic model for Lake County has to do with not only its different towns and the stores, the activities that actually happen around the entire county are fairly eclectic. I mean, from all of the different fairs we have and the different activities of different people, those are advertised. They need to be advertised on a more broader basis. Secondly, they have to be, our lake needs to be sold in a way that is different than just bass fishing. different than just catfishing, but both of those things
Yeah.
still have to be there.
Yeah.
But the bird watching is amazing. We have more species in our little lake here than
Exactly.
anything west of the Mississippi. In fact, the entire continuous United States, you'd have to go to Hawaii to get more species. The species richness here are amazing. And then on top of that, this bird watching events that we have. There's a parking lot and a little trail where you could have parked about 30 cars right there at Rodman Slough. Walk along a little trail, step up on some rocks with your binoculars, and look at, 580 bird nests floating on the water for
Wow.
Clarks and western grebes at the right time of year. And who wouldn't come here to see mothers with babies sitting on their backs floating around?
Oh yeah, the grebes are amazing.
It was
They're
just
so
amazing.
beautiful.
And one of the ways that we could have sold this off, and I did this just to make sure that it was doable, I took my kayak down there and I threw a camouflage net over my kayak and me, and then I paddled out right up next to them with a foot away, and they didn't even know what I was. It
Cool.
was just right, very slow. You get up, you take your pictures, and you go back. We could have trained people to do that. We could have had guides. If you want a guide ship, come here at this particular time, go do this particular activity. So those activities are on the table. We're kind of developing those. We'll have guides. We've got the ambassador program that's going to be started
Oh,
up
okay. I'm familiar with
June or
that.
July.
Right.
This is where local shop owners and the staff of the county get trained as to what's actually here at what times of year and where to send people and how to get them there.
Right.
The hikes to the top of Mount Konocti are absolutely amazing
Yeah, we
if
just
you
had
haven't
some
done it.
people do that yesterday.
Yeah, Tony and Jerry went up there with their daughter Marilyn and her husband.
Was it a good viewing day? Because it
They
seemed
had a
like it would be.
wonderful
Yeah.
day. Even with the breeze, they said it was absolutely gorgeous and just
That would have
unbelievable.
cleared the air. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
you can see all the way to the Bay Area. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
it
what you
is
can see.
amazing, and we're so lucky to live where we live. It's just,
This is one of the most beautiful places in the world, as far as I'm concerned. And what's interesting is I've got some people living
that
there.
didn't help,
in,
Peter.
some people that live there in Lucerne up on the side of the hill and have a beautiful view of the lake, and they're from Germany. And their friends from Germany came here to visit them, and so we were talking about that visit. And the gentleman who came here said, you know, this is as beautiful as the Italian Riviera.
Totally.
It's amazing what you have here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nothing to sneeze at. And,
Nope.
And we do have to market it. We want to make sure that we do it in such a way that we don't turn people off.
Exactly. Well, I don't know if you knew the story, but for 10 years I had dreams about a place that I thought was the Virgin Islands because I used to live there in the Caribbean, and I saw this beautiful mountain and this beautiful water, and it just always was calling me. I'd have all these different adventures in my dreams and meet all these people and everything. When I came here, I recognized that that was what I was dreaming about. Even the people that were in my dream, I met here, and the places that I went to were here. And that's when I realized that, you know, this is not something that I planned to end up in Lake County. Lake County was always meant for me to be here. And it was amazing how the scenery is so much like the tropics and the Caribbean. I mean, with the way the mountains, even at night with the lights on the lake and everything, it's just so much like a Caribbean resort, and we're so lucky to have this.
3,400 counties in the United States, whatever it is, right in that range. And we've got among, if not, the cleanest air of all of them.
Absolutely.
Isn't that amazing? And
It
so
is
you get the
absolutely.
star shed. You know, in my house, when I built it, I actually made a trap door in the top of the roof.
Nice.
And I've got a platform with my scope sitting there, so I can flip the whole thing
Awesome.
back. And who knew that I was going to be in a place where you don't have to be on top of a mountain. You basically have the cleanest air.
Right.
Well, here's a question regarding that. Would you support a dark skies ordinance?
For
In-
here?
Yeah. In Arizona, they have legislation that they put out that says that you can't, have specific kind of up view lights, that the lights all have to face downward, and in order to keep the light
Well, let me
pollution
explain
down.
that a little bit. They're talking about backscatter.
Right.
Lights don't really hurt you with a scope. I've got lights all over the place. I get my scope going. It doesn't
If you have a
affect
scope, but if you're looking with bare eyes,
Even
your
bare eyes, it doesn't hurt
orange, those orange lights are really destructive to the light environment, and they do cause a lot of
I
issues.
appreciate that, but let me explain how it works, so that you can tell me I'm wrong. It's backscatter. If you have a lot of particulate matter in the air, you're going to get backscatter. So the orange light shows up differently because of that backscatter. The orange lights with very clear air, and you're looking up, you're not going to notice it unless you're looking right into the orange light. If you're above the orange light in any way, you're not going to see it. You're looking right at the stars.
So you're
because
saying
that's
we
the
don't
light
really
coming to you.
need to have any
We
kind
don't
of
need
that
it.
kind of thing?
With the cleanest air in the United States, you don't need an ordinance. Now, if you have
I don't
an
know. My
issue-
neighbors have come out with bright lights lately, and it really has affected the quality of our nighttime.
Well, that's because you're looking at the lights.
Right, and that's part of what
You're
this
looking right
ordinance
into it.
is also for. When you have your down-facing lights as opposed to lights that scatter everywhere, it makes a big difference, I think, in your neighborhood and how things
It only
are.
makes a difference. Well, actually, it makes a difference in lowering crime.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're looking up and the light is higher than you, then that's going to be a problem for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you're above the light in this air, it's not going to be a problem for you. You'll see the stars. So if it's for the purposes of the stars, you certainly want to be above all the ambient light anyway.
Right.
That's just standard viewing.
Right. Right. Well, mainly I was talking about in general purposes, but yeah.
Well, you want to lower
I can
crime.
see that.
And-
Lights, and then we have no privacy and we have no peace.
Well, you know, when the LEDs make their way into street lighting, you're going to
Which
see
they have. They're just not being
completely
used that
different
much.
kind of light. I think it's going to be easier on you.
I want to change the subject. May I?
Fine. Go ahead.
Okay.
Can you tell we're married? Fine. Be that way.
I'm going to. Has there been any discussion one-on-one, because we don't want to violate the Brown Act, in the supervisors possibly putting together a dispensary ordinance within the county?
I haven't heard anything.
You haven't?
Well, I
That
know I
was-
discussed that with Anthony Farrington. He said that because 2016 is right around the corner, he doesn't see any changes made until then.
Well, there was a group that came to me and asked me about it because the grow ordinance itself, and really it's an issue of cultivation more than it is of use.
Correct.
And the use is in its own separate category. You know, you don't want the kids to be running around with this stuff. But a group came to me and asked me how I felt about it. And I says, well, I've been about as neutral as I was before. It's fact based, and neighbor has to be getting along with neighbor.
Sure.
Because as much as you think you have a right to do something, that person feels
Absolutely.
like they have a
Absolutely.
right not to have it done to them.
Right.
So with all that said, I didn't have any opinion, but I did tell them that I didn't think it would go forward with the board because they'll be waiting for those ordinances, the state laws to come out.
Exactly. I don't
Okay.
think anything's going to move until then.
And there's another thing going on you have to realize, and that is that most of the issue with the cultivation with regard to drying up streams and creating problems with trash and sediment runoff, all of that, is against the law with regardless of the marijuana.
exactly.
There's a task force that's been formed.
And
going
it's
around
it's
trying to
99%,
compliance.
I would say, illegal growers, if not 100%. There are people that are growing above what they should be growing. There are people that are growing in areas like the National Forest. These are the people we want to see stopped anyway.
Yeah.
And so we support that 100%. But after 2016, I think that the county does need to reevaluate what they're doing, because if Clear Lake is successful in their zero tolerance ordinance, which we're hoping that we're going to be able to overturn, access is going to be a problem for patients in Lake County, period. Because of Measure N restrictions. You know, their excuse was, well, you can always go to the dispensaries in Clear Lake. Well, now the dispensaries in Clear Lake can't even grow their own product to put into their dispensaries. So it's a catch-22, and the patients are being locked out.
And it's going to increase crime.
It is. It's going to make more of a black market, create more illegal grows, and create more problems, and put prices up as well.
Well, I'll say this. I never thought we had the answer before, and certainly feel that we stopped working on it, maybe because everybody got frustrated.
Yep, I think so.
You know, you get fatigued.
Right.
I could see that happening. I think if I were up there, I might have gotten fatigued. Who knows?
Sure,
you know?
sure.
I got the state of Jefferson fatigue very quickly.
Boy, oh boy!
that's
Thank
another
God
subject.
you and Anthony are standing firm on that one. And I was proud of Jeff Smith. I mean, he's kind of come around too, and what he said at that one meeting about he only voted for it to get the state's attention, and that he feels like he's done that now, so now he's not really supporting it again. So I thought that was an interesting take.
Fair enough.
But good enough for him. At least there's a majority now that's not really supporting this.
Well, there are two things that I've worked for the state for quite a while, and I saw a lot of problems, and we tried to internally try to solve those problems ourselves, tried to overcome them, and we just saw that there was this drag on the system that was a real issue with everybody. Once you have, and if you look at the three parts of government, once you have the executive branch with all of its agencies separated away from the judicial branch, which sometimes pounds those agencies to make them put them in the line, and the legislative branch, which sometimes holds back on budgets and whatnot, and sometimes creates the problem by trying to solve a problem, send it to an agency, then the agency has a power or an issue they can't really resolve. With all of that, what I would have liked to have seen for decades was that the lowest form of California government at the land use level is the county, and that all of those folks should have been required at the executive branch agency level, should have been required to work through the counties to implement anything. If it is at a county land use level, it should be working through.
Well, I also think the state should have provided guidelines for the counties and cities as well, and had a framework in place before they legalized anything, because what they did was they just handed a big mess over to the cities and counties and said, "Here, you deal with it."
I was talking about we're talking.
I'm sorry, I got sidetracked.
Yeah, you went back to the marijuana. I was actually talking about state of Jefferson.
And Jefferson. Yes. No, that's true.
Yeah, their complaint was that the rural counties don't get enough attention.
Right. No, it's
but
true.
At the same time, they were going to abandon half the rural counties in the state. They were going to cut off the state, which they called the rural counties, and all the rural counties that were south of us were going to be abandoned. Well, that didn't seem like it solved the problem. And you're basically leaving the seventh or ninth largest, whoever counts, right, largest economy in the world in order to become one of the poorest economies in the U.S. Didn't make much sense.
No.
And then that was going to cripple the economy of the main part of the state, which doesn't make much sense.
Right.
So why not try to fix this thing so it works? And so one of the things you want to do is to make sure that the two branches of government are distributed in the state at the same type of distribution that the federal government distributes their branches of government. So you've got two senators for geographic distribution, and then everybody else is by population. But at the state level, you can't do that. How is it that the second largest government in the U.S., California, can't make its government formed on the same basis as the largest government in the U.S., the federal government? We used to be able to do it, and all goes back to the Warren administration decision at the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
That could be overturned today, because the basis of the way the law is read today is different than back then, and I think we could actually have a geographic distribution of senators. If we did that, then by geographic distribution, those different thought processes in one area of the state will blend with those in other parts of the state to give you a better mix for making a decision rather than being pushed by population centers. It's group think. People say this is too big to govern. It's because of the group think. You only want that group think on one side. On the other side, you want it geographically distributed.
Sure.
So when you're running for assemblyman?
Yeah, right. That's next.
I think you'd be good there. Okay, great. And, the thing that scares me about Jefferson, of course, is the lack of consideration for the environment. I mean, there seems to be a real drive for them to get back into logging, mining, and kind of circumvent some of the environmental regulations that California has instituted in those industries, and that this would be a way for them to get around those laws, and that's something that frightens me big time.
Well, what's interesting is that either they're ignorant of the way it happened or dishonest in their description of it, because most of the problems that they've had is because of the federal government, not to California. California has been very, very sensitive to local industry, and has tried to work with local industry in order to protect those natural resources that we want to have protected and still allow for the extraction of resources. So it has not been the state, because I worked in liaison for 14 years with the Board of Forestry and helped develop a lot of their rules. And a lot of those coastal streams bounced right back over the years, the decades, because they're very resilient. The problem is that we also had to help them, and it cost a lot of money to do all of the work in some of those streams to kind of release the gravels that were stored up and all of the trash that was put into the streams during the bad logging days of the between the 40s and the 60s. Really were pretty bad. And so that is kind of recovered to the extent that it can. We've had bad ocean conditions. The streams don't have the nutrient loading in them that they used to when they were natural, so the fish don't do as well. Nowadays, they're even talking about reseeding the streams, putting fertilizer in the streams in order to, they're kind of little deserts. The water's too clean almost. And so with that production being lost, then we don't have the fish populations that we used to have. So with all that being said, they're really talking about what happened with the federal government. 51% of the state, it's either 51% is federally owned or 51% is privately owned. I think it's 51% is federally owned, so it's right half and half. And the federally owned part is where the biggest logging was occurring. Unfortunately, that was by edict of Congress, not the local forest. So Congress basically said how much the forest could cut. It's the wisest foresters in the world, right, are in Congress. It just didn't make any sense. Right. And so we had all kinds of problems with forests being cut down for purposes other than the way they should be done. It was not good forestry. So these private lands foresters, and I studied forestry so I would have some credibility when I was working with the foresters, and I passed the forester's test. I did it so that I would have that credibility and talk about wildlife and forestry actually interacting. There are some really good books that have been written, Mazer and others that have talked about the redesigned forest and where the wildlife is and how do you protect the streams. So the information is there. That's not how Congress was actually giving allocations.
Well, you don't think Congress was being approached by the lumber industry and the big wealthy corporations that needed that?
Well, yeah, whatever the factions were that were creating the problem there, it should have been one step removed. It should have been the power given to the forest to make their own decisions with regard to outcomes. It should have been outcome driven. Outcome driven so that the forest is taken care of, all the wildlife is taken care of, the streams are running clean, and you're still getting products out. Right. And you're protecting the unique trees of the large old growth forest, that sort of thing. If it had been outcome driven, you'd have seen the forest still alive, still being managed properly, and these people not griping like they are. But they're griping because of ignorance, in my view. And when I talked to them individually on the side, I did not find a whole lot of understanding of how we got to where we were.
Very true. Very true. Okay, so
you want to discuss?
Oh, geez, we're almost out of time. We got 2 minutes left. It went too fast.
Yeah. That was
sorry,
fun.
Jim. We do want to talk about Fire in the Barn a little. Can you give us an update? What's going on with that? We're having some problems getting zoning for camping at the site. And
yeah, camping is your issue.
Yeah, and we can't do the show there without camping because the road's too dangerous. I refuse to let people drive on that road at 10 or 12 o'clock at night when they've been drinking and partying all day.
Yeah, there are other places with the permits already in place, but I understand you guys
and you know the person behind it will not move the location. That's the problem.
There you go. And if that's the case, the issue is the camping because that's what you got to have is a camping. So what you have is a landscape that is zoned.
APZ is the zone.
It's agriculture, but it is ag preserve. When you have ag preserve, you cannot have these extra uses. Now, here's what a person gets when they have their land zoned ag preserve. About 1/10, somebody else's words, so I'm quoting somebody else, about 1/10 the tax base. So you pay 1/10 the taxes, and now you want to use it the same way that someone who's paying 10 times the taxes.
Well, he doesn't mind paying the taxes if that's the issue.
Well, then here's a process problem, and that would be fine.
Yeah.
But here's a process problem. It's already set that way, and it has to be changed. In order to change it, you'd have to, and it could be done, but you'd be out there promoting without it actually done.
That's the problem, and he's not letting me promote anything until this is resolved.
Okay,
which means that we're probably not going to have a festival if we can't promote it because no one's going to come.
No, fair enough. So here's what you would have to do. This could be unleashed in a heartbeat if you wanted. It could be taken to the Planning Commission. Planning Commission at their next time would say, yeah, we agree. They would send it to the board, and the board at the very next time would look at it and they say, yeah, we agree.
Okay.
And now you're within, I think, 2 weeks of it actually happening.
See, that
I'm
was,
looking at all those time
but that
frames.
hasn't been offered to us as an option, so I'm glad you said that because now we can follow up on that.
Yeah, I would launch that ship if you felt like that was going
Absolutely.
to get it for you. Otherwise, you're waiting until next year.
No, and we can't do that. We've already laid out tens of thousands of dollars,
Here's the
so
other thing that
it's a shame.
getting away from the zoning and the permitting is the economic impact it would have in your district and other areas.
Obviously, it'd be great.
And I just don't understand why there can't be some form of one-time permit only issued, because this county needs money. This county needs tourists to be introduced to Lake County.
Well, this county, well, it has nothing really to do with the county. It has to do with the process. You can't say we're going to not be a good old boy county, but this guy over here is going to get something that we wouldn't give to the good old boys because we're being fair across the board. So you really do have to be fair across the board. And that means that it has to be in place, this chance to give a one-time permit. It is not in place for ag preserve. So there isn't that chance.
So it has to be a permanent change then.
It'd have to be a permanent change to allow that to happen, or to make it non-preserve. If we're non-preserve land, just ag land, it wouldn't have been a problem. You'd have been out there camping this year. So when you get into that special issue, you got to be careful about how you say, let's just do it one time.
So what's the
because that's the good old boy argument you get all the time.
So what's the difference between ag and ag reserve?
What's the difference?
Yeah.
It's the matter of about 1/10 of the
No, I understand
The
from
taxes.
the tax base.
Tax base, but why is it classified as preserve?
Oh, so it's only ag, which means it's
That's
not
all
fire in
can
the
be
barn,
used for.
just ag.
Okay.
Okay.
If you don't have ag, then you don't have ag preserve, and
Gotcha.
now what do you got? And so maybe you ought to be paying those taxes. And if they want to do that, they want to say,
Oh, he has no
we'll-
problem paying
we'll
the
do all of
taxes,
that. Then what? Then you would have been okay with this. I think all the rest of it would have.
We
been
have said
solved.
right from the beginning we'll do whatever's necessary to
Well,
make
I don't
this
think
happen.
that was really.
And he never really made that clear that that could be an option.
Yeah, you know what? These things
Yeah.
tease. It's very complex.
Yes.
They tease themselves to the surface over time with a lot of discussion. Once I heard what was going on, I had lots of back and forth with
And
them.
we really appreciate you, the way you reacted to it. It was very quick. You worked over the weekends on it and just, have always been there for us, and we would really appreciate that.
Well, I think you were so close, and then we realized what the difference was. We would have been doing something that was kind of negative towards those folks that are in ag preserve or non-ag preserve, paying the higher taxes, saying, wait a minute,
Yeah,
I've been
and,
doing this for
and
years.
honestly, I'm sure he has no problems with going in a higher tax rate to make this happen.
Well,
at this
the
point.
Planning Commission won't meet for a couple of weeks, I think.
Oh, boy.
And it's just a matter of timing. What you can do is ask for a special meeting, but you'd wind up having it on the same day because you're getting in there so late. So I'd say you'd want to get in the first time on the Planning Commission.
Then we have to how do we get on the agenda?
Well, why don't I kickstart that for you?
Oh, that'd
And
be
if
awesome.
there's any communication that has to happen, why they'll
Just
be
let
getting
me
hold
know.
of me.
You know how to get a hold of
Okay.
me. So
Let me go ahead and get that started.
great, Jim. You're awesome. Thank you so much
right.
for coming on. I could sit
pleasure.
with you for 3 hours and enjoy your company. You've always got so much knowledge
Well,
that
I
you
had,
bring to the
I
table.
always have a lot of fun.
Good. Well, we do too.
And we're actually being very nice today, weren't we?
I know you were.
Well, the elections are over now, so
Yeah, all right. I'm not coming back. What do you think of that?
we really appreciate it.
Okay.
All right, Jim. Thank you so much.
right, you guys take care.
Supervisor Jim Steele, District 3, folks, and we ran a little bit over time, but it was well worth it. And we will be back next week here on Lake County Magazine. Our next live production will be on Friday when we have Pasha Space at 3 o'clock Friday afternoon. It's a 1-hour program that deals with the issues that people are facing in the country of Haiti. And very interesting. Some of the shows are done in Creole, so sometimes you can't listen in if you don't speak Creole. But it's and then Saturday we'll have our The Bridge program radio show from KMAC going on from 9 a.m. until noon. Thanks so much for joining us. And we're going out with a little bit of music from the headliner at Fire in the Barn. And this is Guess Who's Coming to Dinner by Michael Rose. Natty Dreadlocks in the house.
Guess who's coming to dinner? Natty Dreadlocks. No book of rule shall stand. Dreadlock, dreadlock, guess who's coming to dinner? Natty dreadlock. Guess who's coming to dinner? Natty dreadlock. So let's give thanks and praise, Natty dreadlock. I appreciate the herb you brought for me, Natty dreadlock. Now the things and time have changed. Suffering made me realize what it takes, and I have to be a Natty dreadlock. Guess who's coming to dinner? Natty dreadlock. I'm just coming in from the woods, Natty dreadlock. So let's give thanks and praise, Natty dreadlock. I appreciate the herb you brought for me, Natty dreadlock. Now the things and time have changed. Suffering made me realize what it